Yeah.
Order, please. Thank you, everybody. We'd like to call this meeting to order, please. Regulatory and Community for the 10th of October. Now, we have an apology firstly for the Mayor, Brian Cadogan. He will Skype in later on in about 3/4 of an hour, apparently. And we haven't heard anything from Councillor Catherwood. Is anybody else? No. So we'll receive Mayor Cadogan's apology in the meantime. Somebody like to move that?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Herbert. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those opposed? That is carried. Thank you. No declarations of interest, no public forum, and any urgent or late business, please. No, so we're going to start off with doing a Bronze Star Award for the Clutha Stars for the planning team. In a minute.
Oh, you want to?
No, that's fine. Go on. Well done. What did you enjoy the most out of it?
I really enjoyed the boost course that we got to do. I found it really educational and gave us heaps of skills.
And the feedback from everybody is that that's really, really brilliant. Congratulations. Well done. Well done. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Well done. Oh, we'll show everybody that.
A big thank you to Steve and Christina, and also for the councillors also for supporting this investment. We're a relatively inexperienced team, all pretty young in our careers, so to have this opportunity to go through such a valuable course has been brilliant. So thank you very much also.
Well done. Thank you.
Now, we shouldn't forget that, big part is what evidence-based, and, one of the big things was achieving 100% for, a whole year of resource consent activity, and that isn't done lightly, and they're still achieving that now. So it's not over. These are only the starts of these things. So they know that they're looking to complete their action plans, gather more evidence, and move further up the pathway to see what might be achieved and move towards excellence. So it's a great start for them. And there's been a lot of effort. These aren't just done. The rest of the organisation hasn't got things yet. This is the third team. Regulatory was first, wasn't it, Wendy? We've just finished finance, have gone through. Planning now, and there'll be some other teams coming through as they go. So they do have to pass a few things before they get to this position. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Well done. So saying that, we will start with item number 1, and Olivia, please, planning manager. Thank you, Olivia, and with her, Mike. No, Craig, sorry. I went and lectured just before. Excuse me. Welcome.
Kia ora. So I'll open and then pass on to Craig Barr. So Craig Barr is a planning consultant that works very closely with the planning team. You may remember Craig from some of the forestry work that we did about a year ago, and I take it the report has been read for this decision. It's been well overdue. We believe that now is the right time to consider this. Our team's in a good position. So as Steve said, we've been getting 100% and continue to do so. So we feel like we've got a lot of things under control. And this is just the next step for your consideration. You'll note in the report as well that whilst there's 3 options there, that option 2 is what the report focuses on. And noting that that would be within, for rolling review, that would be within existing budgets without affecting rates. So I'll, through the chair, I'll open up for questions now, but I'll refer a lot of them to Craig as well.
So who wants to start the questions? Councillor Barron.
I think you've just answered it, that option 3 was a minimum spend of 900,000 to 1.3 million, and option 2 is a rollover or regressive to that. Is the option 2 still spending 900 to 1.3 million over the
option 2 would be using the resources that are available within each financial year for the planning team.
Yeah,
So it might,
so they've budgeted, Steve, you might, I don't know, where's that money sitting now if it's budgeted? You just mentioned it was budgeted, which,
Yeah, so one thing through you, Madam Chair, is just it can be a little bit confusing when you talk about option 1 or option 2. So
what, 2 or 3?
Yeah, but what I understand your meaning is the difference between a rolling review and a full replacement district plan.
Yeah.
So if we keep to those things, if we talk about the rolling review, we're saying that we believe we can do that. Well, we would do the rolling review within the existing budget. And there is a district plan review budget line.
Right.
So that would be where that sits. And obviously the full review will be something that we haven't budgeted.
Yeah, so when we did, I referring back to the long-term plan, and I never picked up that this was, it must be in there somewhere.
Yes, yeah, under a particular line item that allows that amount of money per year, but then obviously if we're kind of having this subject, we need to bring it to you so you can have a look and say, well, where should we be going?
Through the chair, through the chair, it was in the long-term plan, it was between 60 to 70k a year has been put aside for the district plan. So that's the budget that we're referring to there.
Does that answer your questions, Councillor?
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Kennedy.
Through you, Chair. My worry is if we go option 2 and just do a rolling, that when we come to do the final wash up of the district, considering this is 25 years of age, a lot of those things there'll be extra costs coming there because we've missed out bits. Because a full district plan is a full linking, where if we go a little bit at a time, I understand budgeting and the rest of it, but you see where my concerns are?
yeah, certainly, and that's one of the risks that are canvassed in the report. There is the potential for the plan to not be looked at as an integrated whole, and this is what, for want of a better word, the strategic direction of the plan could be overlooked. There's also the costs, essentially a financial cost and a community cost of sort of dragging submitters back through a process again if you need to undertake a variation because something was missed, or you review a topic later to realise that it should have been integrated better with something you've already done. Best way to counter that is just to try to foresee those issues, to take a really considered overarching view, and to make sure that the way you structure the work program means that you can really minimise that risk. Even if a council notified a full replacement district plan and notified proposed district plan, there's the potential that can happen anyway. And it's not uncommon to see local authorities initiating variations to the proposed plans because there might be a procedural issue, or simply the resource management field or views of the community have changed and they need to sort of go back and do something. So that risk would be present through a full plan anyway, but there's more potential for that if you do incremental staging. So in the table in the report, what we do recommend is that key thing is that the projects that the council had already invested on are finished. But one thing to look at would be looking at the strategic directions chapter first, which is what you need to have under national planning standards. So if you look at that strategic directions, you can set the sort of key objectives for the district, and then things can flow from there. But it's a case of just being really careful about managing it and not overlooking things and getting it right procedurally and from a sort of strategic outcome perspective.
So another question.
But also just to add, we did also discuss, Madam Chair, that some of those key stakeholders, that have big parts to play across potential multiple chapters or whatever, there's no reason why we shouldn't be engaging and having those discussions around the issues in the first part of the rolling review, so that you are trying to tease out their issues as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. One of the things would be to talk to those stakeholders and ensure that they understand how the process would play out for them and how they'd need to engage with the plan as a submitter, because it costs them time and money as well. So if you can manage that and manage their expectations, then at least they know when they'd be more involved than other times, and it means that they don't need to make a submission perhaps on one section simply because they're not sure when something of real interest to them might come up.
So how often then should district plans actually be looked at?
Well, the law says, or the RMA says, that the provision needs to be reviewed every 10 years. The reality is that it takes about 10 years for a council to make a plan operative, and then they're not in a rush to go into the game. So most first generation plans that councils did, they were notified in the late 90s, and they became operative around 2000, 1998. Most in Otago became operative around 1998. And Dunedin's just made its second generation plan operative, most of it operative after notifying it in about 2014. Queenstown's not lagging too far behind. Waitaki's looking at notifying its second generation plan. So essentially, but councils still undertake plan changes within those periods to update parts or to make changes to keep them as up to date as possible.
And we've already done some things throughout from when it was first completed and finalised.
That's right. The council's website says that there's been 40 plan changes. Some of those items, from what we've researched, some of those items were investigated and then went advanced. But there's been a lot of plan changes to the plan. Yeah.
Thank you.
Further questions? Councillor Herbert.
Thank you. I've got a couple. So when we talk about the topics, the reasons for reviewing and the recommended topics for review, and you're talking about outstanding natural landscapes and outstanding natural features in the coastal environment only. Just wondering why that's just on the coast and not actually the whole district.
No, sorry, it is the whole district. The work that was done in 2015 included outstanding natural landscapes for those areas for the entire district, and it included.
It's quite specific, saying in the coastal environment.
Yes.
Maybe there's a separate sentence, though, councillor.
Yeah.
Each of them are separate
Page
sentences. If I was looking at the chart on page 10, it says outstanding natural landscapes mapping, full stop. Outstanding natural features mapping, full stop. Then new sentence, identification of areas of high natural character in the coastal environment.
Well, go down to the next page 11, and then the reasons for the review, and it talks about it then, and it's one sentence just pertaining to coastal environment.
Well picked up. There is high coastal natural.
So that's my first question, and my second one's a little, because I looking through this, and I wrote a great big paragraph to myself about why isn't the tree, whole debate in there, because your next report has quite a bit of information which actually relates to this. The two are almost interconnected. So my question, without dribbling on too much, the very last sentence of your next report says we're waiting for the outcome of the government doing their thing at the moment. So am I better just keeping quiet till they've done their thing?
For forestry, as it relates specifically to forestry.
Well, that's one of the big things. Olivia, there's been a lot going on in our neck of the woods lately with regard to that. And so I was surprised not to see it there. Then I read, and of course you go and write all the stuff, and then you read on, and it almost answers itself. Because it is recommended that the research into potential plan change of the district plan to manage the social and economic effects of forestry waits for the outcome of the intended changes by the government to the National Environment Standards of Commercial Forestry. So that kind of answers. I'm answering my own question again. I'm better off waiting until that comes out.
You are a little bit, as it relates to forestry, yes. At the moment, at least, what the key direction around managing landscapes is in the RMA, and it's in the regional policy statement. And what's been sort of tested through environment courts and other courts is that those fundamentals won't change. And just to correct that, so the work that was done included inland outstanding natural landscapes, and then an area in the Catlins called that they refer to as the inland Catlins, and then quite an extensive study of the coastal area. So there were those three areas that were done in that research, and that work would pick them up. Managing forestry in relation to landscapes is part of that. But what's changed? What's changing at the moment is that the government seems focused on making it as efficient as possible for forestry. So, and I guess it goes back to the relationship to what you just said, is that if there was, how can I say it, is that if, because currently under the forestry regulations that the government put on all the councils, the most effective way to manage forestry is if you're in an outstanding natural landscape or feature. And at the moment, and if there's a bit of a deficiency in your district plan for that, well, you can't even manage them in those areas, which is a key reason to do so. So if the district plan, I guess, if that landscape study was completed and there were rules put in the district plan to manage it, at least you could manage forestry in those outstanding natural landscape areas. One of the key issue with Clutha and forestry is that it's not so much a landscape issue. It still relates to landscapes in terms of biophysical effects, but the issue as well was sort of conversion of pastoral farming land into large-scale forestry. And the way it's sitting it, as it always has, and the way it is at the moment, is that the council could manage those, a council could have rules to manage what we could refer to as like the social and economic effects of forestry conversion. That would be that's a relatively untested concept in terms of managing forestry. And as that's said in the report, the advice that we got initially was that it might be quite a difficult thing to manage in terms of a regulatory instrument to have a rule in a district plan saying forestry needs a resource consent, foresters need to provide information or assess the effects on social and economic reasons. It's not as tangible as saying, here's a forest in an outstanding natural landscape, what are the effects of that? And the other thing at the moment, so that was relatively sort of novel and not easy concept to manage. And what's making that equally difficult to grasp at the moment, or more difficult to grasp as well, is that the government seemed intent on making it as permissive as possible for forestry.
Yeah, I suppose I just don't want to miss our opportunity to revisit this whole thing. And you just talked about it before, like when it's land converting, good farmland being converted to trees. And in my experience, and Olivia's helped me along a lot, if it's a notifiable activity, as long as your wild and tree risk register is under 11.
That's right.
And to date, no one's put one at 12 or over because they don't.
Yeah.
So and they know the rules and they're working towards it, but setbacks from boundaries, setbacks from road shading, all that, this is our time to review it through the district plan thing. I would have thought it would have been quite a high priority.
Yeah, and it has been up until the fact that the government said they're looking at changing it. Even at the time of writing this report, the government issued a press release saying that we're going to change the NES for forestry again because it's not permissive enough for us. Yeah.
So then, Steve, do you think there's any point in us putting it in this part of it as well, or should we wait?
Well, I mean, Chair, there's different things. Like it's relatively easy to deal with setbacks and other bits and pieces. The simple things.
Yeah.
What you'd be embarking upon and what you'd be determining is, is it something? Is going down an unproven concept, which to me says a lot of dollars, right? Now we could say, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying going down an uncertain pathway in treating this issue is going to end up some additional dollars. And do you want to include that investigation and that work in the early stages of the rolling plan review? Because we did discuss it around that. You'd still need to do the framework sort of stuff, but you would be saying, hey, we will prioritise a section on forestry, for example, above other things to be able to do that. And that's a decision that council can make if you're doing a rolling review, for example. One of the arguments about doing a whole of plan review is that it's going to take years and years to go through that. Like when might we get to the section on forestry or whatever and that sort of stuff. So that's going to be long. The quickest way would be a part of the rolling review and doing that as a chapter. But you would have to specifically determine that that's a priority you wanted. And to do that, you would want to take advice from people around, well, what are you up for? And, what is it? What are the hoops and hurdles that you're going to have to go through to get that, to do it? We knew this was going to be a question, which is why that's what we're here for, to
Well, please, I
debate.
didn't disappoint. Look, I suppose it sounds like we get a bite of this apple once every 25 years. So it actually needs to be, as you refer to as a chapter at some point. I'm happy if it's at some point in time in the future. As I say, it's once, I don't think I'll be around in 25 years' time to have another go at it. So, and with the activity that's going on out there, it certainly is a topic that needs to be discussed around this time.
Yeah, if it's an issue of, if it's an issue of concern, I think in the short term, completing the landscape study and having any new rules put in the district plan would be probably the most efficient and effective way to manage forestry, but it limits it to a landscape issue. And then it's really a case for forestry in terms of the issues with converting existing pastoral land. And there's also the issue of how emissions trading and those incentives play in as well, sort of out of the council's hands, at least from a regulatory perspective. But then it's really seeing what the government proposed to do around changing the NES. There's about half a dozen NES statements, NES standards that are in effect, and the forestry one's probably been changed more than any of them. So it just happens to be that as well. And then just seeing what happens. And the foresters have, forestry interests have appeals on the regional policy statement at the moment because they think it goes, they're saying that the regional policy statement goes too far. So if the council were to, and we know that foresters have an interest in the Clutha district, obviously, and if Clutha district were to notify a plan change with rules that had regulatory effect and made it potentially more difficult to establish forestry, we know that it's a no-brainer that they'll climb into it and be really interested in it as well. So it needs to be really well thought.
There's people on the other side are interested as well, isn't there? So thank you.
So can we have a bit of a show of a hand to see who would be interested in pursuing that, so that we see if there is an interest to be able to do some investigations to carry it on?
Madam Chair, it would be more along the lines of, at the moment, what's being suggested is a different sequence. What you'd be saying is, is there interest in changing that sequence to include, when you're saying investigating, would be actually looking at a potential forestry chapter. Yeah.
So is the interest in that, please?
Questions?
Okay, carry on then. Councillor Barron and then McAtamney.
Just one question, Madam Chair, about that. And on page 14, when you talk about forestry, it says an update on potential amendments to forestry are in a separate report. Yeah. Where's that report? Have we got that report?
To the next
item.
next item
What I'm
agenda.
referring to.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor McAtamney.
Yeah, just further to that comment, with that forestry report, next or later, it does say that the government, you're talking about the government looking to make forestry more permissive. They also stated that they don't want councils making more rigid rules
Exactly.
than what will be in the new NPS.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, there's no point us touching it until we have the new NPS on forestry.
The NES is updated,
NES.
yeah, potentially updated. Yeah, that's why the recommendation is, which is basically a wait and see approach, which isn't I know isn't that helpful. And it sounds like the sort of planning team is sitting on their hands a bit, but yeah, to make that investment. And I mean, where we landed at earlier in the year was that we got an offered service from economists with sort of spatial expertise to understand how the, who could look really, really closely for us at how the effects of large-scale forestry conversion would affect rural communities in an economic context, and then look at the social issues as well. And so we got that offered service from them, and then sort of stalled a bit while the cost of that was considered by the previous planning manager. And then as you just go to kick it off again as part of this, then the government announced that they're looking at changing it again.
So I believe that yes, it's important, but we shouldn't worry about it. We can't worry about it now because whatever we decide, maybe throw it out.
Well, what we know is that the government, they'll ask for feedback. They'll probably generate another consultation document and ask for feedback, and then they'll make changes to the National Environmental Standards, and that will probably take about 6 months.
Okay. Councillor Mackie, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm glad John brought this up. It's a hot issue for me. Like basically, I want to sell my farm and I want the most money from it. And right now, the tree guys are paying about $10,000 a hectare. Well, that's what I was offered the other day. The way I look at it is if we don't come up with a decent plan to control this, we won't have a district. And there's lots of stakeholders that it talks about in this document. From schools, businesses, towns, and the ratepayer. The ratepayer of our district is a stakeholder in this issue because they're going to be paying less rates. The carbon farming guys will be paying less rates. There won't have kids at the school. There won't be people in our community. So there's a vibrant community, and we'll have pine trees everywhere in disarray, which will be a fire hazard as well. So we've got to move on this sooner rather than later. And the government is not going to reap the reward of the decisions that are made and that aren't made. We are, our community is.
So further questions before we go to actual discussion? Councillor Martin.
Totally off subject to pine trees, Madam Chair. Guys, Appendix B, Section 3.5, we talk about heritage. And on page 15 and 16 under heritage, and the reason I just bring this up is through consultation regarding the district heritage toolbox, and through a bit of investigation, the registered sites that are in our current district plan, some of them are non-existent now because they've been knocked over and they're meant to be protected. So I see that as possibly something that we can act on and act quickly to update and then help the owners of these registered sites just so they're aware of what they can and can't do under the district plan. So yeah, I think it might help save a few of our historical sites that are endangered at the moment. So for me, it's a must from the heritage and cultural side of it. So.
Thank you for that. So going back to what was discussed about just having in about the coastal environment, I assume then the inland environments will be added into that.
Correct. They were, yeah, yes, they were. The intent is that they were. Yeah, that body of work includes those inland areas as well.
That's great, thank you. Any further questions before we go to discussion? There's not. Discussion. Anybody?
What's that?
Councillor Kennedy.
District plans, as you can see, take many a year. So it's going to take a bit of time to work through bits and pieces. So I understand where you're coming with your rolling thing, Olivia. So apologies for my questioning beforehand. But I had to ask because it's been so long. When you go through all the different sections, trees are another bone of contention in districts. How they become on registers, I don't know, because you've got them on private land and other places too. But so going through all these different areas, mana whenua, the whole lot, the heritage, everything, the landscapes. So yeah, I'm quite in favour with what Olivia has recommended for her recommendations. Considering I did think the other way before, but seeing everything takes many a cog to turn our council through these things. So yeah, I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Further
Sorry, Madam Chair, just make the point that staff didn't put a recommended option down there, did we?
What?
think we left it to you to determine
It was definitely. Councillor Volwala.
For a start, I'll just happy to move recommendation one.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Herbert. All those in favour?
Aye.
That is carried. Thank you. So no further discussion from anybody before we go to motions?
That's okay. I'm prepared to
There's
move
not.
motion 2 that the Regulatory and Community Committee confirms commencement of a rolling review of with the district plan, which is basically recommendation
B.
B. Yeah, and the reason for doing so, I think, as it's been pointed out, can be done. There are issues that need to be dealt with in the near term, which can be done much more efficiently. Had a community around the district who wants to be able to protect its sort of natural characteristics, and the opportunity for communities like that want to look after their natural characteristics, that they get the opportunity to have some input into the plan in the near future. And I think we can work out the staging of what needs to be done, or what we'd like to see done there. I think Olivia and Craig have got a fair idea from the discussion around here what we think is important in the near future anyway. I should also move that recommendation 3 that the committee confirms commencement to commence a review of topics as identified in table 1 in the body of this report.
And a seconder, Councillor Martin. You're happy to second that? Councillor Ludeman.
Just a question. Would it be worth workshopping this process that you plan to take with councillors to make sure that we're all on the same page as for what we might look at in the
hierarchy?
As how we might stage it and what's most important. So rather than just to give some councillor input, that's would be my suggestion.
Up to the chair, yes, be open to that.
Be okay.
We did discuss in the report at some point that we would like to have workshops with councillors to get their input.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That would be really good. Any further discussion? Sorry.
So just, and I'm happy to go with the recommendation, just clarifying recommendation 3, that just talks about those 4 or 5 topics on table 1. So once those are done, then there'll be another table come back. That's not going to be the end of the rolling review, just those few topics.
No, just the
So,
start.
because that's all we're doing today.
Yes.
So it'll be another bite of it later on.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
and through the chair, if we're waiting as well for any legislation changes, then it'd be really useful to look at priorities then. So if we try to put everything over.
Just making sure that's clear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Happy with that?
Yep.
So I'll put the motion. All those in favour of 2B and 3 as table 1. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those opposed? That is carried. Thank you. And then that leaves option B as we chose option 4 as we chose B. Thank you. Moving on to page 19, please. Thank you very much for that.
Thanks, Craig.
Thank you. And Olivia. That's the planning update report.
Great, thank you. So it's about 6 points. We'll just briefly run over for the report. We've already discussed the district plan side of things as well as forestry, but the forestry report can be discussed again if required. In general, our team was here over the weekend, the full team for civil defence duties. So I was very grateful to have all of them there to support those flooding efforts. You'll note in there that I've mentioned the Catlins Integrated Catchment Group that are talking about draft catchment action plan that I've been going along to their Hui's with. As a point for the meeting, the actioning meeting, and I can pass it on to Councillor Catherwood on the 16th of October in Owaka to discuss the draft catchment action plan. So I can send that around if required. In terms of the fast track process, so I'd been giving previously some updates regarding wind farms. We recently received this week that the Kaihiku Wind Farm, which is an area between Clinton, Owaka and Balclutha, will be going through the fast track process. So that means, and initially we'd been having discussions with them before it'd been determined what process that would be, and we'd talked at previous council meetings about the difference between a fast track process and just going through a standard council process. So it's now been confirmed they'll be going through the fast track process. And the other thing to note is that we're undertaking, especially as part of Collect the Stars, quite a few improvement projects, one of them being a compliance strategy that we'll use both in the planning team and then potentially all of regulatory. And we'll have a focus on noise, especially because often we get a lot of noise call outs and it costs the ratepayers money when that happens. And so we're looking at some tools to try and claw that back. But other than that, I'll take the report as read. Thank you.
Questions of Olivia, please. Well done with the weekend with all the flooding issues and that major event for this community. So well done. Questions? Somebody must have one, surely.
Mine are all answered in the item before.
Okay, that's fine then. Somebody to move because it's just an item for information that we receive it. Thank you, Councillor Herbert, and a seconder. Councillor Phelps. All those in favour?
Aye.
And those opposed? Thank you, that is carried. And moving on to page 25. Thank you very much for that.
Thanks.
Wow. Where's Kelly? Kelly not here?
Kelly's sick, unfortunately, so I will endeavour to answer questions. And I actually do have an email from Kelly from yesterday of a few items he would like me to note.
Thank you.
So we will take his report as read, but the items that Kelly's asked me to highlight was obviously number of cabins have gone from Taylor Park.
2.
And there's still 2 more that to go. A little bit of work's been done on levelling and removing some of the issues on site. And Kelly has also met with Robbie Phillips and discussed with him the plans for what's going to happen on site. So we're keeping him informed in terms of that as well. The Milton Pool was switched on earlier in the week, and thankfully it started. So there's an interviews currently being held for staff. But at this stage, it's looking like we're all go for having a season. So how many seasons that will be determined later on. But we did have issues with last year with sand going into the pool. So there are concerns about the filter, and we'll continue to monitor that.
So just a quick question, Jules. What did the pool look like when it was empty, please?
Like an empty pool, I'm not sure. So, but we also want to keep it empty for as little as possible because of the previous risks as well. So, in terms of that, so just in terms of some other issues, the annual CHC survey results, community housing unit results will be in the next standing committee report. So that's been done, and the other one, obviously which I think Kelly's mentioned in his summary, the bike project underway, and we're having positive feedback from that. And as expected, there are a large number of bikes that can be rehabilitated and reused. In terms of work coming up, there's noted there about road safety funding. There is some follow-up work from the LTP. We're preparing a paper on funding of community hall museums and halls, and one of the things that we were keen to find out is whether the council, and you don't have to answer today, but you can have a discussion afterwards, is whether you want to go and look at some of the museums and community halls around the district, or the other option is that you go and look at your local ones and you bring back the feedback on that, or whether we try to find a day or 2 days to go and have a look at a lot of these museums. If you're making decisions on funding, you might want to have seen them yourselves personally. So keen for some feedback on that one in due course. Other than that, I'll endeavour to answer any questions. And
Councillor Herbert.
So just with regard to the cabin sales, Jules, we've obviously gone to the open market with these. We were going initially to the other camping grounds within our district.
We went through a tender process where they had the opportunity to tender as well. And in the end, we've sold them to those that have given us prices that meet the reserve price. So we did have tender bids from camping grounds within the district.
I thought the original motion we were to go offer them to them first.
It was offered to them in parallel with the open market.
It was, in 3 minutes, in preference, for example, but we worked hard with a campground and looking like we might be able to sell all 4, but at the end of the day, they said no because they actually didn't want it. They wanted a different configuration.
When you say we sold all 4, because there's another report somewhere else that talked about selling 3.
You know, the 4, it's definitely the 4
We've
song.
received the money for 3.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. That one might be getting confused. Somewhere else there's another report that talks about selling 3. Right.
Councillor Barron.
Thank you, through you. The report goes on to talk about
Which page?
the Taylor Park campground and maximising the economic return
Yeah.
from that camping ground. At that time, the council has made a decision to accept cabins made at the Otago Correctional Facility to go to Taylor Park. Taylor Park, it talks in here too about individual site identification with better delineation of the campground will be established. After the submission program, we got another map to say that the campground is not that big, it's actually this big, and bigger than what was in the submission process. As a result of it being larger than the original, there is room in the existing footprint of the campground to put cabins on there. The council voted to put cabins on there. They went onto the green space, they got removed. Is it the intention to put the remaining cabins in the space available in the Taylor Park cabin ground to increase the economic return to the council?
Not at this point in time. The council's given us a clear direction that we're not putting cabins in there. The council could make another decision at some point in the future to say we do want them in another part of Taylor Park, but at this stage, that's not the intention. It's to try and maximise the usage and the utilisation of the existing facilities at Taylor Park and basically get a better return from what we've got and manage it in a slightly different way as well, with increased digital marketing and those sorts of things to try and increase the patronage. So that doesn't preclude council making a decision about other parts of it, but the area has been confirmed through the reserve management plan process, and we're looking to maximise the use of the area that council's confirmed.
Yeah, and just to be clear, through you, Madam Chair, when you talk, councillor, when you talk about the areas being confirmed and it's bigger, I mean, my recollection of the minor amendment we made to the area was more about identifying the land around the utilities area rather than where, for example, the existing cabins were. So I have no doubt you could put some cabins in the existing land area that's there, but you would also be removing campground sites and things like that are existing. My understanding is, and my recollection is, I don't think there's any area that is available to put cabins in there that would not already take our sites, because that's the area that's been delineated.
I can reply to that because that's not truly correct, because there's 3 areas adjacent to where the existing swimming pool is that had caravan electric plugs in it for caravans, and there was a complaint from the pool that the people that were there were looking through into the swimming pool, and the caravan plugs were removed. And where those caravan plugs were removed from, no one's ever parked there or put a caravan there or a tent or anything. And that area could be used for cabins. You could get 3 cabins in there. I've been and looked at it and met people there. And so because, and the question was that the council have decided that they're not going to put cabins in there. I thought the council decided to remove the existing cabins from the green space. But I can't remember anyone passing a motion not to put cabins in the camping ground space that exists.
You're correct, councillor. There isn't a resolution to say we can't have cabins within the approved space, so you're correct. And if what you say is correct in the sense you've done that homework, and I won't argue with that because it actually sounds like that's correct. That's an option, but that would be for a later time when council, which we haven't yet had, what are we going to do with the other 6 cabins? And we haven't done any homework around what to do with 6 cabins. And you will need to make a decision on that, which could very well include
We need that input.
putting more cabins into the existing space.
Well, yeah, because this report suggests they're trying to maximise the revenue from the existing Taylor Park camp. And the original decision that the councillors made was to do that through the cabins. And if you do it, the sums on it at $300 a night, blah, 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 it increases the revenues.
Yeah, so that'll be brought forth again when we make the decision about the other cabins. Thank you for that. Any further questions? I just have a couple. A new digital gate will be installed to limit unpaid access and track users on page 32. Do we know when that's going to happen?
Not at this stage.
And
I
then,
doubt it'll be able to happen anytime soon until things dry out a wee bit.
yes, yeah, understandable. And then on page 34, the education for the recycling and everything to all CD staff and elected members. Do we have a time frame for that by any chance?
I'll have to get Scott to confirm that.
Okay, that's fine. What else did it? Oh, do we have any results from the Creative Communities scheme? It's got that there was funding round, but hasn't got whether anybody was supported through that or not.
Perhaps the chair of this committee, Madam Chair.
I can probably respond to that, Madam Chair. Yes, there's 2 or 3 in there that didn't meet the criteria, but there are 3 Ellis Blake, Milton area promotions who are painting the wall for the dog park, and Rachel Taylor. They all got some funding this round.
Lovely.
The rest, the music exits didn't meet the criteria. Neither did the Youth United right at the bottom.
Okay.
It was more of a youth group.
Thank you.
Put you in the picture.
Thank you for that.
And thank you. I was going to say that there could have been a wee bit of more supporting information with that.
Yeah. So perhaps we could have that next time. And I'd just like to make mention on page 40 for the Youth Council 660. That was a brilliant event for the whole of the Clutha district. We had fun when we did the barbecue and went and met the band, obviously. People came from Timaru, Oamaru, Invercargill and stuff. Absolutely brilliant for Tupoma to showcase that as well to a whole lot of people from the Belchside area. And it went down really, really well. There's a couple of things that need to be ironed out, but we'll just carry on with that. On page 44,
Madam Chair, just through the creative community scheme, it's probably just a timing issue because this would have been drafted before the meeting. So
no, I realise that.
We'll pass that on. Sorry.
Thank you. On page 44, I was disappointed to see Rachel can no longer do her conference through the road safety. Can the video still be showed there or not? Because I assume it was the video she was going to show that had been done.
I'll have to check with Rachel on that. I'm not sure. Sorry, Madam Chair.
No, that's fine. That's all right. That's the only questions I have. Did anybody have anything else? Any discussions? No, we'll go back to recommendation on page 26, and it's just for information that we receive it. Somebody to move that. Thank you, Councillor Herbert, and seconder Councillor McCrosty. All those in favour? Nobody opposed? That is carried. Thank you for that. And moving on to page 48, Mike, please. And it's the community plans, all those projects update, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Despite what it might say in the report summary, this item actually doesn't have a case study this time round. I just ran out of time to prepare one this time for this report, but I'm happy to take actually any suggestions councillors might have if there's something in particular that you might want to see a little bit more detail on in terms of some of the things that have been happening around the district. One of the reasons that I ran out of time for that was we had a thank you event, I guess, for volunteers and people who have been involved in Our Place community plan projects across the district. That was last week, and that was also very successful. We had a good turnout, some very good speakers. But apart from that, yeah, I'm happy to take the report as read and to take any questions.
Questions of Mike? Councillor Barron.
Under Tyree Mouth, does the Henley Bridge come under Tyree Mouth?
Henley Ferry Bridge, do you mean up by the top?
You had a presentation previously about replacing the toilets at the Henley.
Oh, the toilets, yes.
It's not included as an Our Place Tyree Mouth
Where's
project,
that?
but it's.
Can you answer
I think
that?
that will come under capital delivery.
Yeah.
Question for that.
For you, Madam Chair, I can answer that. It's actually being scoped and handled by our operations team, so Stacey, and as well as working with the capital delivery team. And they're getting, it's a capital project for this financial year, so they're getting quotes and looking at how we're going to deliver that. So,
thank you.
Yep, that's progressing.
Councillor Kennedy.
Through you, Madam Chair. Mike, just a question on your activity on the 17th of September with proposal to trial rainwater harvesting on public toilets.
So this is it's actually an outfit out of Auckland, but they're looking to do a trial.
What did they approach?
Yeah, they approached us. Yeah, initially they're talking about wanting to use the new Milton toilet to harvest rainwater off the roof there and offset what it costs, I suppose. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm really looking to pass that off to water people who may or may not be interested in that proposal.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Herbert.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Great report. Hey, I'm not sure if you can answer this, but the Kaka Point toilets, during the LTP process, they came along with their own kind of proposal. And from memory, we sort of said, you guys do it your way and we'll kind of assist you. So I'm just wondering where that's at and who's kind of looking after it, because I see it's council-led, but I'd be interested to give it an update on where that project's at and who's looking after it.
Through you, Madam Chair. So that is probably also best answered by the capital delivery team.
Right.
That has been passed over to them really too.
Thank you, Donna.
That right now.
Donna's all over it.
Just turn it on the front.
You gotta sing us all through.
Okay. Through you, Chair. So, yes, the Kaka Point Community Group are leading that project. I just want to clarify that point. And we have they did send a big list of questions, and we have responded to that this morning, actually, in regards to their questions associated with the project. And there have been numerous ones.
So their contact person is yourself?
No, their contact person for the project is Hebe, as a support role.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Oh, and Councillor Cathwood's been involved as well.
Okay. Yep. Thank you for that. Thank you for that question. Further questions? Councillor Payne.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just a comment, really, Mike, around the Our Place Community Awards. I thought it was a fantastic evening. So thanks for organising that. Some of the feedback, and I thought everything was really good, but some of the feedback that came back about the discussion, they thought it was fantastic to be able to get together as a collective group and actually chew the fat on all that stuff. And there was one person I remember saying, how can we do this again sooner and actually get together? It may not be a celebration, but maybe it's the district wide. How do we drag all these people in? It was a room full of really positive people.
So was it just?
And they really enjoyed bouncing ideas from one to the other and getting the info and the rest of it. So just something going forward that we might think about is what I'm thinking.
So a possibility of a 6-month get together just to swap ideas and things like that.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So that was actually initially just when we talked about this event. We did, think that might be something that might come out of it. So that's good feedback, and also thanks to Councillor Payne for emceeing the event. He did it very well.
Tongue twisters and all the rest of it.
Good, thank you.
Madam Chair, might have to come back to council to approve the alcohol budget.
They don't need alcohol, it's just to swap information, surely. So at the end of the report, Mike asked if you wanted anything else further added in. Has anybody got any ideas, questions that they want to add further? No, it looks like you're doing enough and a great job. Thank you very much, Mike. So back on page 48, this is also just for information. So somebody willing to move the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Payne, and seconded by Councillor Kennedy. All those in favour? Aye. That is passed. Thank you. Welcome, Debbie. Thank you. Library report.
Sorry, I'm just a wee bit behind here, but what about the letter from the Kaka Point Community Group wanting to transfer their funds? That wasn't discussed.
Oh, yes. Good question. Just taken as.
Turn on the mic. So, so that was a request from the community group. And so that was put to the local councillor, Catherwood, and he was in favour of that. So this was to notify you of that.
So that it doesn't need to be approved.
No, we're asking for approval. It was just really to
Item for information again.
$20,000.
Well,
Yeah, but Madam Chair, I mean, like,
I would question that.
Well, we report to you, and we're reporting to you what we did. And if in doing so you tell us that no, you don't like that. If anybody wants to shift anything around, you want to know about it and approve it, then we won't do that again, and we will come back to council and write a report about it. But that's what we do. We tell you what we're doing. Like there's delegations and delegations, isn't there?
Yeah.
And that. So if you have a different view about that, then tell us, and we'll.
Well, then is it too late to challenge it now, Steve?
I'm not challenging it, but others have come back from other areas to have it approved that it be transferred, and that's really why I'm asking the question. As we're getting through, I'm realising, well, hang on, we haven't approved this. So I don't think it hurts to come back to council. It's not going to rubber stamp, but it is actually keeping us abreast of what's happening. Yes.
There is we didn't just do it off our own bat. There would be a story to as to why we came to a conclusion. So, Mike, if you could, there's a story to it.
Well, the story is that obviously that for the $20,000 that has been transferred was allocated quite a few years ago. There's been minimal interest in the community in actually progressing that particular project. Obviously, there's a lot of work gone into the Esplanade project. And they're looking to get that up and running, and they're doing some major fundraising themselves. I guess they're trying to maximise that or leverage that against council funding. The local councillor was also in favour of that, so that's the story, I guess.
Yes, carry on, Councillor Ludeman.
So basically, I mean, it is a bit of a concern because it's almost saying that are we not going to continue maintaining the other playground? So that is a bit of a highlight. It's raising a bit of a red flag because it's almost giving the Esplanade playground an extra funding, and yet
we approved it for the other.
And we've approved it for the other. So okay, it's been transferred to Esplanade. Okay, in 2 or 3 years' time, somebody's going to come back to council and say, oh, the Tarata Street playground actually needs this maintenance done. Well, hello, we'd already approved that funding. So my comment is, if we're going to keep that playground going, I'm a wee bit concerned that funding's been transferred. If we were going to continue that playground, different story. So that's I guess the question I'm asking.
Right.
So through you, Madam Chair, so that 20,000 funding wasn't for maintenance. That's included within a separate budget. It was for an upgrade of the Tarata Street playground.
But still the same issue.
It's the same thing. So we transfer it from the Tarata Street playground, which is fine.
Yep.
Okay, and it goes to Esplanade. Right. I mightn't be around the table here in 2 or 3 years' time, but Tarata Street playground come back now and say we want $20,000 to upgrade that playground, or else we're told that playground equipment isn't safe, it's at enough speed, we need $20,000. Well, we have the $20,000, we've transferred it. It's like I'm concerned that we approved it for that playground, different kettle of fish if that was going to be disestablished, but if that playground's to be continued, and I'm sure there's probably still a purpose for it, why are we transferring it to the Esplanade?
Well, I guess my response would be, answer to that would be, the request came from the community board, which represents the community. They're the ones that are, I guess, represent people who live there. We're just trying to cater to to what their priorities are at this point in time. But as Steve said, we can. I assume you can make decisions or.
Well, I just highlight the fact that I can see if we're not disestablishing that playground, it's only going to be a matter of a few years and they're going to come back and say that playground equipment's been done. So I'm a little bit concerned that it's been done just like that.
Yeah, we could go and put
a bit more information, perhaps a paper on the state of that playground till we make sure that actually that playground can continue. But like we've had to close Lincoln Terrace and other playgrounds because they aren't up to speed. So I don't want to see that transfer this funding away and next thing we're told, well, this playground's going to have to shut. So a little bit more information, I guess.
So Madam Chair, I think we need to be very clear of the distinction between maintenance and community plan upgrades. So there is a view and a desire from the community to upgrade things. They do it through the community plan process and we put our investment money, because that's how it gets funded, and we work with community groups to do that. In Kaka Point, there is a community group. That is a community group that we've worked through for all those community plan matters, including that particular playground and the Esplanade playground. So we take a lot of our lead from that particular community group. We also have a councillor that is representing that area and has an active part in that in those projects as well. So when you get the community group responsible for applying for these requests and these upgrades through the community plan process, requesting that they're not getting any progress or needing to progress Tarata, they want it to move it to something that is progressing Esplanade, and the councillor is in agreement, and we're shifting that. We decided that that was sufficient, that we would be able to agree to that and move forward. It isn't the same as saying I'm worried about that it's going to fall over or anything like that because the maintenance covered. It's purely a question around where upgrade money goes and that side of it. However, if you tell us that you didn't like the way we did it, that's fine, and we will just make sure that any movement in money nowadays for any community group related side of things, we will be much more careful and we won't act on our own behalf and delegations. We try to be reasonable about what we make decisions over, but here you go, sometimes this happens. If in a general, because only at the moment we've got Councillor Ludeman saying this, but in general you might agree. If in general you agree with that, well, we'll just be a lot more formalised and careful around that movement. We actually run really, really well with community groups across the district in how these things are being managed. But happy to, you can run foul of things if you're using it wrongly. Happy to bring it all back to council if anything needs to change.
I think
If that's the direction of council.
I think that's appreciated. Councillor Herbert.
Just to refresh people's memories, we've actually set a precedent on this. Some time ago, we set aside $30,000 for the Whiskey Gully Reserve as part of the West Targa outlays. Councillor Kennedy only spent $2,000 of the $30,000, being very frugal spender that she is. So we transferred, and that decision came back to council. We transferred 18, and then there was still a further 10, and then that next decision came back to us only a couple of months ago. So we've just both those transfers have come back to be decided here.
Yes.
We've already set a precedent by doing that.
Yes, they were decided through.
They were decided through this.
Councillor Martin.
You're right there, Councillor. So the funding was approved through the 21-31 long-term plan. So was it this particular group that actually applied for the funding? Who actually applied for the funding?
The other.
No, it's because it's a 50% share. So who's going to put up the other 50%?
The first playground group that it was assigned to.
Yeah, and who was that? Is it this group?
It came from our place, Catherine's community plan, which had then a list of investments.
Yeah. So which group is leading that though? This group that you want to transfer it to, or a totally separate group?
No, separate.
Separate group.
Well,
No,
that might,
at that point in time, there was no group identified in 2021, but there was feedback through the Our Place process that that playground was important.
Yeah.
And that at some stage they'd like an upgrade. There were some suggestions along those lines. So therefore, an amount was put aside for that, as there were for quite a few playgrounds across the Catlins.
This one.
Right, so now there's no appetite.
This one hasn't progressed. No one's stepped up to lead a project there, but they have down at the Esplanade.
Right, but the Esplanade have raised their own fund, been allocated.
Yep, that's right.
So is that not a form of double dipping?
Well, I guess they've just, from their perspective, from the community group, that is, they who are leading that project down at the Esplanade, they're trying to do the best job they can down there. It's quite a challenging site, obviously, because it's in a marine environment.
Are you familiar with playgrounds?
Yes, yeah, I'm sure you are. But right by the sea is also extra challenging. Yeah. And it's hard to raise funds, I guess. So, but again,
but to answer Councillor Martin's question, did they get some funds from that original as well?
Yes, they did.
Yes.
Yeah, but they've also come back and they've also had an additional top up, which was through this year's LTP. So this, I guess, is the third, if you like, tranche of money that council has allocated to that project.
Because just to add to that, it is quite a vulnerable event going to the long-term plan. Like I've been there, walked that journey, as you're all aware, for our playground 3 or 4 years ago. So like, it's actually a commitment to come to council with a submission, but then just to so easily transfer it. It's just, I would have thought it would have to come past this table. There's a bit of effort involved.
So going
fronting
back
up.
to Councillor Ludeman, what would you like the process to be and the outcome of this, please?
Well, look, it might be the right decision, but I still would like to know a report on the Tarata Street playground, and I still say I don't want it to come in 2 or 3 years' time to say we want that 20,000 now, and because I can see what is happening. So that's really why I'm wanting more information, basically, to know why is it not needed now at Tarata when it was needed when they asked for it.
So Steve, the question is, can it be put on hold in the meantime until there's some more investigations done?
Yeah, well, sorry, to answer the question, I mean, you've through the councillor, your understanding of how projects work in the Our Place plan and how it sits in the LTP is not correct, unfortunately. They sit in there. That doesn't mean to say that they're ready to go.
No.
Right? They're just identified in there as a project potentially to go. And what do we say? We say when the community has got the people and the resources to do it, but we've put it aside as a result. So it's not like there are active things sitting there and therefore you are taking from one, robbing from one from the other that's sitting there. I do accept the issue around, let's question the movement of the transfer and whether we should be requesting approval. I disagree with that. But the understanding of these are active projects, they aren't until or unless a community group gets active into it and does it. And so there's a whole raft of those. And what Mike's doing, we said to Mike, you can't do everything. We're only going to be interested in people that are active, groups that can be organised, get moving, get their half of the money and things like that, and we will support those people. So when we have those people, that's what we try to do. Other things like the let's say Tarata, if there was a group that couldn't be formed or whatever, that's what happens. We don't, we try to get them moving. If they don't move, nothing happens. And then the question is, what do you do with the money? This is only budgeted money, obviously. None of the money is ratepayer funded because it's sitting from the investment. And that, so it's not spent money at the time either, but it can just sit there.
I'm guessing your question and your issue is, would we have made the decision to give the one group that whole amount in the long-term plan decisions, or would we only have given them X amount that we did in the start?
It's probably even, look, I'm fine with it. The reason I've asked the question is that if it was allocated for that, you like to know that there was obviously a reason it was allocated. That's the bit that I'm getting at more. So why all of a sudden is that reason no longer there. If it's the fact that the community don't want to support their playground by doing that, that's fine. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's been noted that my concern.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Payne, followed by Councillor Kennedy.
Well, look, I'm way more relaxed about this than many around the table, but I'm hearing what's being said. My question now, though, is it's the same group, I understand, that have applied for the money. Can we now remove the Karata Street playground from the spreadsheet? Would that solve the problem?
Well, it doesn't have any, I mean, it doesn't have any dollars left in that sense. But look, just to finish it from our side, Madam Chair, look, I'll just take the direction from council. It's quite clear that there is concern. Well, we won't touch anything without coming back to council again. It's not a problem.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy.
ESP, Ken. When Mike asked the question about the tables and showing things, when we went out to our places, we put out what we wanted, okay? Not everybody wants a playground to do up playgrounds. Not everybody wants different reserves, dog parks, da-da-da. So we put them in there. Just take them out. If they haven't become active in a certain amount of time, because some of them have been sitting there a long, long time.
Yeah.
You know, and this keeps coming up to us and you look at it and go, oh, well, nothing's been done here, nothing's been done here. So why is it still sitting there? Okay, so take it out. So there's the job, Mike.
Right, thank you very much. Good discussion. So it's already been voted on, so we will move on from that. Thank you, everybody. So on to page 2, item number 5, and it's for information. Debbie, welcome. Sorry about the wee wait.
No problem, thank you. Kia ora koutou, everyone. This report, just one little clarification. It says on here that it is an October update. It's actually August that we're reporting on because, as Jules alluded to earlier, these reports are compiled a little while before the meetings. So this is an August report. On a positive note, it's good to see visitor numbers are still maintaining. They're still really high, over 13,000 visitors in all of our facilities during August, which, given that it's the middle of winter and not very nice, is great. Also, too, on a positive note, following on from the wee comment before about how great 660 was, you might have seen the wee snippet in today's leader, and it'll be more in our next report, is the library's success in organising Mr. Yippity for the district. And our team managed to have Tupoma absolutely rocking with over 500 littlies from across the district and outside of the district too. We noticed a lot of people coming from Dunedin, from Gore, from right across. So if you don't know Mr. Yippity, he's a pretty well-known kids author. And he's a bit like the Wiggles in terms of the way he performs. He sings and reads, and it was an amazing day. And I think we've got some photos of cavalcades of littlies and hivers, vests and prams going down Clyde Street towards Tupoma for their show. So it was really, really nice. On another positive note, just pleased to advise a highlight here that we have negotiated and worked with the Goldfields Museum for their eyesight to sell the story map experience for this coming season, because it'll get it out, it'll send more people to Lawrence, because at the moment it's only being sold through the museum, which means that people who may be coming the other direction and thinking, what do I do in Clutha? It's another tool we've got of actually sending them out to the district. So we're really pleased to be able to do that. On a less positive note, I have written a little bit on the front page that we have been experiencing recently, an increase in, how could I describe it? Inappropriate, aggressive, bad customer behaviour really is about the best way to put it. And it has become noticeable. It doesn't seem to be prevalent in all of our branches across the district, but we have seen it certainly here, Owaka, Milton. And it's where people are, they just a lot of people are angry, as you know, about a whole lot of different things. And I think we're just hearing about it. People just offload onto us, and sometimes they just do it in ways that are not appropriate. So I've just flagged it in here to let you know, and also to just highlight that we are currently working on a multi-pronged approach to make sure that our staff and customers are as safe as possible, and that everyone has a great experience. We're very committed. It's written in our strategic direction and our activity management plan that we provide safe, welcoming and inclusive facilities. And that's extremely important to us. So we are working on this to make sure that everyone has a great experience when they come to visit. And I'd just like to end on whether you actually noticed those cute young fellas under the Clutha Heritage section there.
Time has not been called.
I couldn't resist pointing that out. You've got to be so proud of yourself, though, advocating for the district for so long.
1994, so we succeeded.
Thank you for that. So questions? Thank you, Councillor McAtamaney.
Thank you. Debbie, just back to that stuff about those people coming in and going a bit cranky. Now, are they coming in to use services and then losing the plot, or are they just coming in straight off the street to have a crack?
No, the first. They're in the facility for a reason. It might be to use the computers. It might be just to be there. A lot of people use our spaces just because they're safe and they can sit down quietly with the paper or jump online. So they may be there for that, or they might be coming in to get some books, or all of the above. Or they might be attending some programs. And I think the key thing here is, we're conscious that we provide information and we really try to make sure it's trusted information. But where there can be things that are topical and people will have opinions, people are free to express them. That's what libraries have been about for 100 years, 200 years. We have debates and things. It's really about the way people are expressing their views. And it's been particularly noticeable that sometimes it seems to be directed at some of our younger staff. So I think some of us wouldn't take quite so much. So we are working on a multi-pronged approach, and I just wanted to flag that it's just unfortunate. It's just how things are at the moment, I think.
Councillor Payne.
Multiple people, not just the same people coming back.
There are a number of people, and they tend to be people who are quite angry about a lot of things that are happening in the world at the moment. So on a more positive note, they're not generally personal attacks, but they do have a negative impact, and they do make some of the staff feel quite uncomfortable.
Understandably, Councillor Payne.
Oh, thanks, Nan. Yeah, my question has pretty much been asked. I mean, every councillor around the table would have read that paragraph and said, wow, all the good, positive stuff, and then we've got that wee bit of negative. I mean, I guess the main thing is that you don't feel isolated or unsafe in that building when this happens, or, I mean, that would be of a great concern to me, you and your staff. If you thought somebody was going to jump across that counter and really have a go at you.
As I said, not every situation is exactly the same, and not every instance is the same too. And we're talking here about our libraries, and libraries are not traditional customer service behind a high desk these days. We sit alongside people, we help people with their computers. It's a different type of interaction. So there's a number of things that we need to look at just to make sure that people feel comfortable, and we address the range of situations.
So you'll feed that back through to us to let us know what is happening?
We absolutely will, and I dare say you'll also get some information through risk and assurance and health and safety report that all corporate services or wherever that goes, because we're working with health and safety to develop some measures.
Great, thank you. Councillor Graham.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Not in your report, Debbie, but I was in there the other night and it was rather inclement weather. It was so nice and comfortable, warm and dry, so that it was money well worth spent. And on another note, you referred to those photos, those two earlier photos. I was just wondering, on page 69, is that Councillor Volwiller in the back right at the crochet group?
Moving on, Councillor Herbert.
Thank you. Mine's more of a comment. Debbie, under the Tapanui one, I see there we're providing an area for people to do homeschooling, two separate groups. And that actually honestly concerns me. We've got a school right across the street, and as a taxpayer, I don't think I should be providing as a ratepayer somewhere for school kids to be during school hours.
I think I can clarify that. I think the way we've described it isn't actually accurate. So we have spaces for story times, we have books for people to read. We don't police who those people are. The only time we will police children coming in during school hours is if they're coming on their own and they're young, because then we're not, there needs to be an adult. But in terms of, we don't necessarily go out of our way either to actually ask people what they're using the library for. That's not what libraries are about. People come in, they see the resources, and they use what they need. So sometimes that can be homeschoolers, and they will use things, but they also have access to a whole pile of resources that are dedicated for homeschoolers. We don't purchase that type of material. So the collections that we have are general collections, and we do have a collection development policy that clearly articulates that. So we don't buy them for those groups. It's no different to a mum coming in with her kids, whether she's a homeschooler or not. She's just sitting there and using the resources and using the spaces. And it's the same with computers. Some people will go, well, actually, I might be doing a bit of business or a bit of work. We don't ask people what they're using the computers for, but they could also just as easily and often more frequently be using our computers to access organisations like government departments, etc. We get an awful lot of that. So we don't police what people do in the libraries, so long as it's legal.
I'm just expressing my concern from a community point of view. We've got kids that aren't in school that should,
Any Councillor Feltz?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not to dwell on that negative fact, I was just wondering, have you thought of safe rooms for those type of people, for the staff, or do you not think that's warranted just yet? A room where they can lock themselves in and call for help, or is it?
So, just Madam Chair, those things are things that we discuss when we look at our risk assessments, and we probably don't want to publicise risk assessments or anything like that, but we do give consideration to what is the state of the environment and such when we and what we have available when we do need to look at those things. So we do look at it. It's an obligation I have as an employer. So we're actively on to that.
Thank you. Any further questions? No, moving on. Somebody move the item for recommendation on page 62. Councillor Feltz, and a seconder. Councillor Graham, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Those opposed? Moving on. Thank you. That was carried. And welcome Malcolm, Building and Regulatory. Item number 6 on page 75.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I guess the bad news with the area was the local flooding that happened over the weekend. We were lucky enough to be able to clear 95% of the building inspections on Saturday, literally as the water receded. We probably got off relatively light when you look at the amount of rain that fell on the district. Good news under the building control team. We've now gone live since the writing of this report with our objective build program. And last night we had a meeting with the public here for training on how to use it. We had 12 people showed up, which is probably pretty good for an area like the district size of Cleveland. It has actually been quite a successful launch. On the first day, I think we got 3 applications, and one of them was just from Joe Blogg's tradesman, who managed to fill it out successfully first time round without any complications, so that was really good. To show the versatility of the program, We've even had an application lodged from an architect who's on holiday in Greece. So we're really putting ourselves on the map. There's been a couple of minor teething issues with it, mainly around invoicing. We were lucky enough to get people to pay for consents twice. So that causes a bit of a hassle. Of course, we've got to arrange the credits and things like that to fix that. And the other wee hiccup was just around GST implications, more to do with levies where the GST is exempt. So they've been the main causes of the main issues. Animal control, you'll notice that there's been quite a few dogs that have been identified that we didn't know about. That's been a really good response. That's through cold calling on properties. There has been 2 or 3 dog breeders uncovered, then finding 5, 6, 7 dogs at a time that should be registered that are not. So they're really acting on their job there. So I guess I could take questions.
A note on page 77, there's still 306 owners who have not registered their dogs. That's quite a few from July to now. Questions?
It's still early days, of course, Madam Chair. That's the target they aim for, to get through to about what, March? You sort of stop March, April.
Councillor Martin.
Through you, Madam Chair. Malcolm, thank you. Hey, Malcolm, I'm just looking at rural non-working dogs and rural working dogs. Why is a non-working dog dearer than a working dog? What's the difference?
That's something like I've never actually set the fees or the descriptions, but there is clear description and legislation about working dogs and non-working dogs, and basically there's always been that difference in the fee structure. So I'd have to actually do homework to figure out why that has been that way.
Yeah. Well, the reason I asked is I had a ratepayer ring me, and it just so happened that one of the team actually arrived at his place due to a service request. It turns out he was a dog breeder, and he asked me the question to ask is, what's the difference between working and non-working? And then when the employee says to him that actually the registration fees don't even cover the cost of employing the staff to do the dog registration, so he also asked the question, well, why have dogs registered if it's not even going to pay the way for the staff? So there's a couple of curly ones for you.
Well, easy answers. Madam Chair, the law says they have to be registered, so there's no distinction there and no slippage, no nothing. You just got to have it registered. So, and then there's a cost of registration, right? So, and the enforcement. So that's why the staff attached to it. That's easy. The categories are if you look at the Act, you've got the different descriptors of what working and non-working are. You have to have those different categories. You could have the same fees, it doesn't matter, but you've got to have the different categories. And the general reason why working is less than non-working is, I can guarantee you, well, on the one hand, there's no way farm dogs and things like that and farmers will want to say that they should be paying the same as the non-working dogs or urban dogs. And what we did do was we matched rural non-working to the urban responsible dog owner, because at the end of the day, they were the same. We tried to say that they were the same. And often you will find the issues you get in a rural environment aren't from the farm dogs, it's from the ex-urban people living in the rural area with their dogs that cause the problem, and that's the rural non-working dogs. So it's sort of slightly matched to effort. Farm dogs don't create any problems. The effort attached to it is less, but there's a registration and administration cost, right? So that's why they should be less. Non-working, generally you find, and issues out in the rural is the non-working dogs problem. So higher effort, higher cost. That's really what it is, and that's how it's done.
And we all voted on that, Councillor Martin, as well, so we have an input into that. And I must say, driving backwards and forwards to work for my 30 years as a vet nurse, all the dogs that I picked up in the rural area during especially lambing time were pet dogs. They weren't working dogs, just from that point of view.
I'll just make the comment, Councillor Martin, that rural dogs actually make a valuable contribution to the GDP. Council economy.
Just in response to that,
Excuse
Madam
me,
Chair.
this isn't a backwards and
In
forwards.
response to that, the chap that raised the question has got more farm dogs, registered farm dogs, than he has non-rural dogs. So that's, yeah. So if you could link it over that, Malcolm, and flip me an email, mate, and then I can pass it on to the chat.
Thank you, Councillor Bell.
Actually, Madam Chair, non-working dogs could be retired
farm dogs.
That the farmer keeps and should be paying a lesser fee. In some districts, dogs over 15 years of age aren't required to be registered and paid for. That's another thing we could consider. But my question to you, Malcolm, is there any puppy farms in the Clutha district?
Yes, there is.
Yeah, there would be. I'm not sure just how you exactly define some of the dog breeders as puppy farms, but clearly when someone's breeding a large number of dogs, they would have to be categorised as a puppy farm.
Do we know how many?
I personally know of 3, but I'm not sure just how many there would be in total. I'd have to go back with animal control to confirm that.
Do the dog control rangers visit those properties?
Oh, quite regularly, yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
There was another question, Councillor Graham.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, and I don't want to offend all the farmers on the council and being an owner of 4 non-working dogs. Do they ever audit working dogs as go into a farm and, hey, let's count all the dogs you've got?
We regularly do quite a few site visits. One of the dog breeders that was found through a farm dog audit, if you want to put it that way. And it was established like they did have a number of working dogs. I think it was something like 8. And then they actually had quite a large number of breeding dogs as well, which they denied having until one poked his head around the corner. So it's interesting, people will try and hide these things from you.
So they do audit farm dog, working dogs?
We usually get that once a year.
Sorry?
We usually get that once a year.
Once a year, every farm?
We do from the, that's through the freezing works, not through council, but through freezing works. Yeah. Right, any further questions? No, we have a recommendation back on page 75 and we've got all the building numbers and everything there, so no further questions. Somebody to move the recommendation, it's just for information once again. Councillor Volweiler, and seconder by Councillor Mackie. All those in favour? That is carried. Thank you for this very long-winded meeting. Thank you.
Right. Okay, welcome to the Corporate and Policy Committee meeting. Call for apologies. We've got me, Brian Cadogan. Any other apologies? Is Councillor Catherwood heard?
Bruce, Councillor Volway was out of the room at the moment then.
Okay, so can I have someone move the apology for me?
Happy to
move. Second. Councillor Finch and Councillor Neely. Any declarations of interest? Any urgent business? There's no public forum. Okay, so we'll go to item number 1, the change of use for Tapanui Pound Reserve. Mike, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we received a proposal from the Pomahaka Water Care Group. They've got a plan to use it's called the Pound Reserve near Tapanui. And so this has obviously been supported by the West Otago Community Board at their most recent meeting. And so this item is just requesting a decision on the council agrees with that change of use. But so happy to take it as read and answer any questions you might have.
Okay, so any questions? Councillor Finch?
I think this is a really great proposal, and I think they should be congratulated on it. And it's obviously not necessary piece of land at the moment. So yes, I think good on them. Well and truly good done.
Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, Patterson's Creek in my mind is notorious for flooding, and if I'm correct, I'm just trying to establish which side of the town is it on. Is it on the top side, the bottom side? Will it affect the future of flooding of the township, perhaps, if it wasn't? There's just straight questions to get it established in here. And it's no, is it?
Oh, through you, Madam Chair, I wouldn't have thought so. No, I'm not a local, and but I, having been there and had a look at it, I can't see how it would have an impact really.
No, that's all. That's cool.
Any other questions?
Is it the top
Sorry,
side?
Councillor Graham.
Just, I'd like to ask the West Otago councillors, is this going to offend any other groups that possibly use that reserve or?
I'll have an answer if you like. So our place has been out for over 2 years. These are the only people in the 2 years that have shown any interest in doing anything with that paddock. And when you look at it, nothing's been done for about 100 years. So fully supported. So if anyone wanted to put, Councillor Kennedy and I have talked about dog parks and all that sort of thing. No one's beating down the door of council or the community board to build a dog park here. These are the people that they're not asking for funding. They've got funding sorted. So they're just, so I'm getting here, just asking questions, it's no.
The reason I ask is I refer back to the track and Kai walkway, how we had issues with people grazing. So if this isn't going to upset whoever's grazing there.
There's a formal lease in place which will end.
Is the person who has that lease, is he likely to get irate about it? We're going to see him here.
Well, they can't.
Through you, Madam Chair, I think the issue with previously, councillor, was the lack of, or the alleged lack of notice and discussion with that particular person beforehand, as opposed to our ability to end the lease because we've got a legitimate other use for it.
Thank you.
I've just got one small question, and Councillor Herbert kind of has alluded to it, but I just want to make sure that I'm quite happy for this to go ahead, but just to make sure that there's going to be no funding required from council for this to happen. So that's probably my question about it. I mean, they're saying here that there's still funding needed, so I'm actually wanting to make sure that we're not going to say yes to this and next meeting we're going to come back and ask for some funding towards this.
Well, all I can say, Madam Chair, is that at this point, they have not requested any funding for this project, and that they have indicated that they do have some funds available, but no doubt it'll be an ongoing project and they might identify other elements. You know, I mean, there is the outplace funding available, so that's already been provided for community projects in West Otago. There's other funds that they might want
So
to
that
look
would
at,
be a way we could
possibly,
put
yeah.
some of the airplace funding towards that if funding is required. I just feeling, I mean, I get it as a good project, but you know, we are being careful in regards to funding at the moment, and given what's been going on across the district, so that's just being cautious.
I would be very surprised if they did. All those groups. If there's a lot of groups out there that's still got plenty of money. It's the catchment groups. Are still well funded. There'll be another protocol before they ever come to council.
Thanks for that. Any further questions, discussion?
If you finish questions, Madam Chair, I'll fully support this because, as I've just said, this has been a couple of years when the door's been open, and these are the only people that have put some information our way. I think if we're talking about funding, our funding contribution might come by way of tidying up the street a wee bit, because I'm pretty sure you all take pity on West Otago because you'll see that street's made out of dirt and grass. So I'm presuming there'll be an upgrade there, but I fully support that, and I'm happy to move a motion when you're ready to accept it, Madam Chair.
I'll come back to you in a minute. I think Councillor Payne had it.
No,
you're right.
It's been said, but I'll be happy to second that.
Okay, so happy to take Councillor.
Well, I know what he's going to say.
I'm happy to move recommendation 1 and recommendation 2 that we approve.
Okay, and Councillor Payne, second. Thank you. So, any further discussion on that now that we've got a motion?
Is that a horse and cart in that street?
That's what we're down to, Joe.
Okay, no further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion's carried. Okay, item number 2, page 11, Tokenmouth proposal to build on council land.
Beautified, so you'll get more money for you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is, you've had one of these earlier in the year. It's an application to build on land that we leased to people in Tokenmouth, and they have a lease to 2029, which you may or may not choose to renew. And as part of that lease, they have to ask us if they want to put anything new on there. So that's what this is about. These people, however, they took over the lease via an assignment of lease, and I'm guessing they didn't see the original one because they've already commenced their building.
Already built on it, haven't they?
Yeah, they've already commenced their building, and they now have a building consent in, which, interestingly, part of that consent is to get permission to build. So this is to ask for permission to build. And yeah, I'll take any questions.
Questions for Sharon, please. Councillor Finch.
Thank you. On the bottom of page 11, due to the location of the section and buildings, there may in the future be a concern regarding coastal erosion. How close are they?
Through you, Madam Chair, they're not at this stage. They're like, there's the beach, and then there's a row of houses, there's a bit of a domain, and then they're on the other side.
That's what I thought, but
Yes.
when I read that, I thought...
Yeah. That's just part of all the leases out there, because it may be that something happens out there. We might require it in the future for roading. We might require it for all sorts of things.
When I looked at the map, I was like, how can that be? Thank you.
Councillor Volwheeler.
I have a query actually. I see they have sections, the legal description, not the street number, but the legal description, sections 50 and 51. We have the lease agreement there is just for section 50, so see towards the bottom of page 16.
Through you, Madam Chair, they will have 2 leases. They have 50 and 51, I think it is, but we've just put one in to show the wording of what they have to ask for. They have 2. They have 48 and 46 on that map, and they pay twice. They pay for each section.
Yeah, no, I'm just checking that we're covered legally there, or they're covered legally with the 2 leases.
Yes, they do.
Councillor Graham.
Through you, Madam Chair, if they hadn't already built, and they'd come to council to do these buildings, would there be much of an issue for them to do it generally?
Through you, Madam Chair, I don't believe so. they would go through the same process with their consent, and the same thing would come up, go to council and ask for permission.
So this is, so it would have come to council anyway?
Yes.
Right.
And through Madam Chair, Sharon, have we turned somebody down?
Through you, Madam Chair, not in my time.
Councillor Volwiller.
I think perhaps in the past, we have actually required somebody to remove a house that taken out and then start building, which was not consented.
And through you, Madam Chair, again, there's two different types of leases out there. There's some that are on the river reserve, and they actually are meant to be subject. It's something we need to do some more work on and bring back to you. As we've discovered it, they were meant to be removed in 1989, I believe. And they're still there. And they've become more permanent as they've gone, and they've put in rock walls and stuff like that. So they have they actually had a removal thing that was under the Bruce County Council, something way back then. But so we're going to do some more work and work with regulatory and that to work out what we do there, because they are more subject to coastal erosion. So it may have been one of them. Yes. And so and they are unable to be sold to anybody at all. They can't be passed to your children, only to your spouse. So, but we've since discovered that has actually happened, because we weren't aware of this letter from way back. So potentially that would be one that we can remove, but the other ones I'm aware of.
My question being rules and regulations, why do we have them? Do we have fines?
If they build without asking us first?
Well, anything to do with council, because we have rules and regulations that we've got to, we're legislated against, and we've got to stick by. But Joe Blogs can go and add whatever they want, do whatever they want. And until it's found out that it hasn't met a building consent or that, and I know over years it's happened a lot, whether it be a fireplace or whatever, and it's not found out until someone else buys the building and then they go, oh hell, it's not on here. Do we have a method we can flag things a lot quicker and actually, I mean, these guys do this. They've already built. What do? They take it down and start again? Or actually add a money value to it, because money talks more than anything. And say, well, sorry.
If they get, and somebody else with more regulatory background might know more than this, but if it gets discovered through illegal building activity, they'll get a letter from the regulatory department and they'll get instructions on what they must do to fix it. And if they don't, I think that is, the state of that is where some kind of fine would kick in. But if they take remedial action and get on with what they're meant to do, we get money from building consents and stuff like that, and they're doing the correct thing.
So that would be a question for Malcolm, for example. It's a valid question. You should ask Malcolm, like what is your compliance approach, Malcolm? How heavy-handed are you? What do you do? Because it's not just a legal building there, there'd be legal building others. And if council felt that actually we're too soft, council can have a view and say we need to be tougher on that and actually apply those rules. A lot of times in the regulatory space, we have a pretty much get it fixed approach. That's important, get it fixed, and if they express a willingness to fix things, then that's what we tend to support. And we only tend to go down the punitive way if people have a different approach to that or are not willing to do that.
Councillor Herbert.
So my question through you, Madam Chair, is probably to Sharon. So the extract of the lease that we have here that they have signed, is that an extract from the main body of the lease, or is that an assignment to lease? Because it's really interesting when you read clause H on there, because it actually strongly encourages people to build houses.
Through you, Madam Chair. No, apologies, this one was a whole new lease. It wasn't an assignment. Apologies, I got that wrong.
So they've signed it, and we're saying here they should get it built within 18 months. We're actually encouraging, if you read H, we're actually strongly encouraging people to build property, should there be no living accommodation on the said land, then to commence building within 18 months and to take no longer than 3 years. Yeah, but it says at the bottom, if we haven't got consent, we'll extend it for you. So we're being very, very, we're encouraging people to build on it. So
if it had nothing on it.
and they built it, so they are building on it, so where's the problem?
Councillor Payne.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So just my questions around the septic tank and sewage. I suspect Riverside Reserve's got a real problem with the septic tanks and the soaking areas and all the rest. This section's up higher than that, isn't it? I'm just trying to get a picture of where it is, and there'll be no problem with flooding or high tides or anything like that.
Well, they would have to.
There'll be the rest
you
of the house
can't,
will be under,
you can't
obviously.
build.
Yeah.
You have to have a building consent, and the building consent will have to address and get approval for sewage.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's covered through that process.
They're built already.
Through you, Madam Chair. We were actually there the other day with the flooding and looking at this particular property, and it's tucked into the back of the hill, and the new section of the Coombe, is it Coombe Hay? Subdivision, the new part of that's above it, and there was sort of a bit of a minor slip coming down the back of it, and the only flooding they got came over that hill and through the corner of their property, but it did flood the neighbours from that particular property we're talking about. And I wouldn't say they're built as such. There's a caravan and some partially built buildings. But it's not, they haven't moved in, I would say.
Councillor Finch, did you have a question?
Yes, please. On page 18, I'd like to know, chairman, councillors and inhabitants of the county of Bruce, does that mean that bit of land there belongs to some of us? What does that mean? Yes, that means that we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, that's where the.
Okay. Any further questions? Discussion? Councillor, you're prepared to move?
No discussion, I'm prepared to move recommendation 1 and approves.
Have a second, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hubert. Okay, I've got a motion. Any further discussion? Councillor Volwheeler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I'll support the motions, but they say on in the letter, so they said that they can provide a drawing of where these buildings will be placed, which would have been helpful, I think, just in making a decision. I think that should have been come through in this report too.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. We did actually ask for that, but it never did come back.
In that case, I would have suggested that it be held over until they provided all the information there.
Councillor Baron.
That's a good point, but again, when it goes to the building consent and planning, if it's too close to the boundary, or they'll have to make sure that they make it work. Yeah.
Yeah, true. Any further discussion? Okay, we've got a motion there that we receive the report and that we approve the lease of 46 and 48 permission to build on council land. So I'm going to put that to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, the motion's carried. Okay. So now page 20, the Clutha Stars update report. Christina.
Kia ora koutou, thank you. So we're actually almost 1 year into our Clutha Stars journey, and by the end of the year we will have completed all of the development training for our leaders. 5 teams will have completed their full training as well, and then we'll have 8 teams left to go over next year. So then our focus will shift to performance and process improvement. But for example, so we audit our teams against our outcome statements when they first start, and our pilot team, for example, have improved by 55% in that space. So we're already seeing some improved performance by them, which is really exciting. yeah, really excited for the year ahead and really feeling thankful and lucky for being able to do this program. Thank you.
Okay, questions for Christina, please. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Christina, yeah, great effort on your Clutha Stars and going forward. What happens to new members that come into teams that have already been through? Do they get a chance later to have a go, you know, to do?
They do, but we will be offering one-day sessions. So, and also relying on the culture that's been built from the team who have already completed it. And just bringing up those teams who are coming in late with a one-day session so that they understand the language and where their teams are currently at, so they don't fall behind and they have an opportunity to know what has happened and learn.
Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks, Christine. There's no doubt it looks like a great thing, but I'm going to go right to the financial impact, and it says budget for Clutha Stars has been approved. Now that's great, but I have no idea what that budget is.
Oh, well, through you, Madam Chair, you should have council in the LTP decision paper.
Very deep.
And it was, no, because we explained it, because I had to go through a raft of different things that we brought to you. And I do recall saying specifically how the budget was set for that particular year. It was asked for, and I had no problems explaining it.
Okay.
It never was, did it?
Yep.
Because what we said, I remember saying it, we highlighted, so I remember now, we had 275,000 per annum for 10 years. And 287 per annum for 10 years, and we said, now actually we don't need that. We need it for 1.5 years post this, and we came up with a revised figure, and we told you all that. So we had a big discussion about that at the LTP.
Well, thanks, but I don't recall that. Thank you. Yeah.
It's a pretty big set of figures, so we highlighted it. It's possible, like we didn't have necessarily all councillors done yet, so I'm not getting at you or anything like that, but I'm able to respond very easily and confidently because it was a big set of figures. We identified it. We were looking for funds and money, and we found, hello, this money's going across 10 years. We don't need it, right? The program's going to be finished. We estimated what we needed to finish the program, and that's what we put down as an amendment.
And that's inclusive, Steve, sorry, of the modest budget and everything too, is it? But I mean, modest bonus.
Yes, it's all part of that.
I'll just comment, I remember asking questions in the LTP around.
So did Brian.
There's a resolution on that. Reduction.
Okay. Further questions for Christina? Councillor Grant.
Just on the Clutha Stars, when you interview someone for a position here, do you outline about the Clutha Stars? Do you give them a rundown on it and what you expect and that sort of stuff?
When we hire people, we induct them and we talk about Clutha Stars and what to expect. But in our, I was speaking to a staff member yesterday who talked about their interview process, and they were talking about how it felt like they were looking for the right people and the right fit and asking all the right questions to make sure that they aligned with our values and our vision and where we're trying to go. So while they're probably not talking specifically about Clutha Stars, they are talking about the things that matter to us.
And I think, Christina, all the work we've now done about the values, the team CDC and the values, the proposition now that we have gone through with the staff, that's now fed through into the job descriptions and is definitely part of the interview process.
Further questions for Christina? Questions?
Happy to move the recommendation.
Okay.
Thank you.
No further discussion. I've got a seconder. Councillor Herbert. Okay, got a motion there to receive the Clutha Stars update report. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Page 23, the Strategic Planning and Policy Report. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Except for one matter, I'll take the item as read, and that matter is the reference in point 1, activity, 9th of October, the emergency planning exercise to take place for reasons you probably appreciate. Apart from that, take it as read.
Okay. Questions for Peter, please? Councillor Kennedy.
Question day today, sorry. Interesting to read that we have a policy on weapons free zone.
On?
Nuclear weapons free zone.
Indeed. Yeah, so for you, Madam Chair, would you like me to talk to that?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a very short policy. It's one paragraph. And I think it's 2009. And it basically affirms the stance that the district is nuclear free. Basically, it comes in the context of what New Zealand nationally was doing at the time. The review is a very simple one. It was really just to see the currency. Since that time, the New Zealand actually has now signed an agreement, which in effect, in terms of non-proliferation, makes it law under international law and affects us in that way. So the update will reflect the current situation.
Thanks, Peter.
Any further questions for Peter, please? Councillor Martin.
Through you, Madam Chair. Peter, I just see the current policy reviews. You've got in there also listed, you've got a policy on bullying and harassment and workplace complaints and that. Do the councillors actually fall under the council's policy? Like councillors, do they fall under these policies here?
These ones are...
well, that's solely...
These are organisational. Yeah, sorry, through you, Madam Chair. These are organisational with respect to employees.
Employees?
Yes.
Can't bully. Carry on bullying.
Okay, further questions for Peter, please? No further questions. Any discussion on Peter's report? Okay, there's a motion there to receive the report. Someone prepared to move? Councillor Kennedy, seconder. Councillor McCrosty. Any further discussion? Put it to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion's carried. Where are we at? Trey, the management accounts report. Welcome,
Good
Trey.
everybody. Probably just make the same comment that I made earlier about the budgets and actuals being in two different systems, so currently can't match them up together to get them any variances, but this should be fixed by next meeting. Other than that, happy to take questions.
Any questions for Trey on the management accounts report? We did
Can I just make a comment?
Yes.
Through Madam Chair, what Trey means by you can't get any variances is we can't get it to a granular level. We can do it at this level, but we haven't brought the budget from the other system in and filtered it down to like wages and consultancy and stuff like that. So while we can give you the overall variance, we just can't get it any further down than that.
Yet.
Okay. So this was discussed at Audit and Risk this morning. Is there any further questions for Trey? There is a motion there on page 26 to receive the management accounts report. Someone prepared to move? Councillor Mackie and second Councillor Volker. So I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion's carried. Okay, the investment portfolio update report, Greg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll
I'll take this report as read, just noting, as I mentioned this morning at Risk and Assurance, that we did receive the additional 112k returns for the month of September, which brought the balance up to 26,965k. So, take any questions or discussion.
Greg, can you speak up a wee bit? You're just really hard to understand back here.
Was it 12 grand, was it?
112.
112, thank you.
Yep, return for September.
Questions for Greg on the investment portfolio? No questions? Discussions on the report?
Just a quick question. So, Greg, are you happy with the returns?
Yes.
No?
I would say yes. It's any return is a positive return. So,
Sorry,
we have been tending to have positive returns the last few months. So I would say yes.
Do you compare returns with other investment funds compared to the Nico fund that you use?
Not as such, but I guess we rely on our Treasury advisor to give us advice on that.
Treasury, this Treasury. Treasury here, this Treasury.
Through you, Madam Chair, in the risk and assurance agenda, there is a dashboard, and there's a part taken out of that from another report, and it compares all sorts of other. We use Nico, but it compares, it compares all sorts of other investment providers, and we benchmark to make sure that we are at the top of that. Yeah, so that's there's a big report which will go to risk and assurance next time because it never turned up this time.
So quarterly.
That was the question. Thank you.
Any more questions for Greg? No further discussion? Okay, there's a motion there to receive it. Someone happy to move? Councillor Fouts, second Councillor Funch. Motion to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, Greg, the development properties update report, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just take that report as read.
So we can.
But you move yourself.
Yeah.
That's what a singer does.
Okay, any questions on the development properties report? Rosebank Terrace.
Just have we heard anything so far about that? I know it's not closed off yet, but has there been any indication?
Well, the only indication is it's out to market.
It's out to market.
We're waiting for the deadline sale date to end to see what the interest there is.
Any, Councillor Kennedy?
Sterling. I don't know, I might have been asleep that day. The front sections, I thought we were gonna hot skip them out the doors because they were easy to get rid of and we didn't have to worry about a lot of other work. Well, have we considered it or?
Through you, Madam Chair, there's currently a process in place to split part of it off. And that's sitting with the lawyers, and I think it's about issuing title or something.
Right.
But it is organised. Yeah, it is happening.
Councillor Funch.
I had a question on page 34, the same. Title has now been received for the subdivision. So do we now need a decision on when we are going to start getting that process all up and going?
Madam Chair, that would have been the subdivision necessary to slice it off from the existing farm.
Right.
Now there's a smaller one to slice off another piece.
Right. Okay, that clarifies that. Thank you.
Because there had been discussion that nothing was going to happen really with this until we dealt with Rosebank Terrace and saw a need. Yeah, Councillor Fouts.
Through the chair, I just asked regarding Keithmore Road, is that still sort of on the boil, or is it would that sort of be dealt with? Or can you not say?
No, so Keithmore Road is on the back burner. We're not proceeding with it based on council's previous decision at this point, and we're just letting it sit for the moment.
Okay. Any further questions? Further discussion?
Okay, there's a motion to receive the Development of Properties Update Report. Councillor Herbert, seconder please. Councillor Payne. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion's carried. So we've got to Corporate Finance Team, Sharon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'll take this one as read as well. It's just about what we've been up to, and also like Peter, I thought I was doing a civil defence exercise, which didn't happen. And the only other thing would be to mention that Gaynor Soper, who's been at council for over a year and part of our team for 6 months, is she's leaving us. Her last day is tomorrow, so we're on the hunt for a really neat person to join the finance team. So if you know of anybody, tell them to get in. Cool, thank you.
Any questions for Sharon? Goodness. Okay, sorry.
Sorry, I know you can't give the reason, but was she moving on to another job? Do you know?
Yes, she does have another job. But it's, and I do know the reason, which I won't tell you, but it's not an awful one.
Right.
I'll tell you.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions for Sharon? Right, we've got a motion there to receive the Corporate Finance Team report. Someone prepared to move? Councillor Bold-Wheeler, seconder please. Councillor Coutts. To the, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. No, I believe we've finished, so that wasn't. So I'll close the meeting. Thank you, and we'll have a break.
convene the Infrastructure and Strategy Operations Committee meeting. Apologies, an apology from the Mayor, Dagan and Deputy Mayor Payne. Any other apologies? A possible apology for Councillor Volwheeler for early exit. Apart from that, any others? No, someone prepared to move that? Councillor Mackey. Seconded, Councillor Phelps. All in favour? Aye. Against? Aye. Declarations of interest? No, and no public forum. Right, we'll go to item number 1, an item for decision, the stock underpass exemptions, Waitago Farms Limited, Gorge Road, West Otago. Leo was going to present this, but I see we have James taking a stand.
Yeah, I'll stand up for Leo.
Welcome, James.
Looking at roads this afternoon. I'll take the report as read. Is there any questions?
Right, Councillor.
I've got quite a bit I'd like to add to this because it's just not quite as simple as it reads. So if people could just look at page 6, and if you zoom in on where the new crossing is going, the current landowner was unaware. You can see where that red circle is where it says new crossing. Just to the left of that is a wee triangle of land there. He was unaware that he owned that up until Tuesday. That's why the crossing has been put in, and if I could get Di to put those photos on, that's why that crossing is right beside that house at 358 Gorge Road. If you look on here, he's been a wee bit economical with the truth in the photos he's provided, to be honest, because it doesn't actually show the dwelling. Now, I don't think anyone sitting around this table would be happy with the way this looks. Anyway, while so the owner and the applicant was unaware he owned that little triangle of land. He thought he had, you can see where that light coloured, just about where the, like, say it was 9 o'clock on the clock of that red circle. So you can see there, that hedge, there is a house on the other side of that hedge, right on the other side of that hedge, and that track, that crossing that's in there now goes right past that hedge. It's within metres of a dwelling. He thought that was his only option, but it's come to light that it's not his only option now. That being the way it is, you can imagine the effluent runoff, that's the road this week. But that other photo, the way the hedges, the way the dwelling is in relation to the stock crossing at present, in the summertime you've got flies and you've got smell. In the winter time and when it's wet, you've got runoff of effluent into that person's section. I'm happy to support the motion and the crossing, but I've got four conditions on it. One of the conditions is that stock crossing gets moved to the very, very left-hand boundary where those purple lines line up. Because now we know that he owns that wee triangle of land. It can go right to the other end of that paddock.
The one that's got 32 on it, John.
Yes, it can go there. The stock crossing can go right to the other end of that paddock. I think he should only get a 1-year exemption, not a 5-year exemption. Because when you look at the road there in that other photo, I don't think the behaviour's been as good as it could be. I'd like lights on it, because you've got to bear in mind while we have this whole conversation, there's 4 dwellings in there, and past this crossing now. Those people have no option to get out a road unless they go over one of these crossings. Because there's 2 the other way, existing crossings, and there's 1 new crossing. They cannot leave their property without going across one of these crossings. It needs to be lit up, it needs to be safe. And I'm going to give them till the end of November to complete that.
Just a question then, John. In the right-hand side of that photo, it shows that there's a bit of a mat on their side, but it's not across the road. And it didn't look as though it had been across the road with the marks across it.
No, he's got 3 crossings and 2 mats. So some days those mats don't work.
So that's another.
But that's why I'm happy. Look, I don't want to impact on his business, but he needs to prove that he can operate that and you know, in keeping with the neighbours and keeping them happy, because they deserve to be able to travel about without. Sorry?
It also needs
Well,
another match.
that house is just to the left of that, so that's what gets transported up and down in front of your house. It's not. So as I say, look, I really appreciate the work that was done by some staff on Tuesday. I talked to Craig Jessup and David Rowe, because that wee triangle of land, talking to some neighbours, that was what was referred to by the old timers in Kelso as the school reserve. It was a little bit of land that no one knew who it owned. The guy who owns to the left of that, the bigger triangle bit, he tidied it up some years ago, took the trees down, regrassed it, tidied it all up. He's not concerned about it. I flicked the email that David Rose sent me on Tuesday to both that landowner and the applicant, who it turns out does own it now, so they have a copy of the title. I would suggest what's happened is, over time, that's been a forgotten about bit of land that happens, and there's been no rates paid on it or whatever. It's been abandoned, and it's just been amalgamated into his title without him realising. So it actually makes things better for us. It's better for us, it's better for the landowner, and it's better for that poor people that live in 358. We don't have to have the crossing right beside their house.
Good point. Just for clarification, if you approve this, will only be valid until December 2025. Will have to be reapproved.
That is perfect. That's all stop crossings come up next year, do they? Firstly, look, really appreciate this has actually come to us, because this could have been, because of the average daily count of the traffic, this could have been a staff decision, couldn't it?
No, any exemption from an underpass is a council decision.
Okay, that's good. That's what's, so there's been a bit of confusion over that triangle, and it's been clarified this week, and it's actually a win-win for everybody.
Councillor Ludeman.
So this farm has actually got 3 crossings?
Yes.
Is that normal?
So the 2 existing crossings were pre the bylaw, so they were here before 2011. So they are exempt from the process because they're existing. And the farm actually is in 4 sections. I think it does show out.
Probably that's just because of expansion, Councillor Ludeman. He's only just recently bought this piece, and the same as the piece across right at the top of your screen. That top, the original farm is the piece in the middle, and then he's slowly expanded as bits have come up around it.
Yeah, so he's got the milking platform with the dairy shed on it in the middle, and there's 3 other sections that are separate from each other and separated by Sims Road and the other road.
Okay. Any further discussion, questions? So how would we progress this, Steve, if we were to
I'm happy to move a resolution, a recommendation with some conditions.
Yeah, so we just want to check, Mr. Chair, I'm fairly sure, but we check James, that you can impose conditions. So you can put, those are standing conditions that you've got there in the form, right? But can you add additional conditions?
I would imagine so, because what you're asking is an exemption from having an underpass. So you either do your conditions, or you do not give them this exemption, and you'd be required to put in an underpass.
So we would be looking, if I'm sure Councillor Herbert's ready to go, that he's actually thought about it and can do that, unless Jill's got a different view or what?
You know, I agree, but it doesn't necessarily have conditions. It could be an underpass in a specific location. The exemption is for the underpass.
No, I want him to get it done.
Oh, yeah, sorry, the crossing.
Yeah. So we would be just looking for Councillor Herbert to propose the resolution that will just add the conditions.
Happy to move recommendation 1 as it's written, and 2 that we do grant, but adding on to the bottom of that on the condition that the crossing gets shifted to the southern or left boundary, or however we explain that.
Just say you could just reread it, Grant, that the exemption is granted with the crossing being on the western boundary of Gorge Road, on the western boundary of the property.
The very, yep. And so I don't need to put in there about the exemption, because it's going to come up in 14 months' time anyway.
The
One year exemption.
The resolution says it's till 1 December 2025.
Thank you. Warning lights on it. The people that live up there are saying this is their only option to be out of here. It needs to be as safe as possible. I actually went around there this morning, had another look at it, and I was driving up the other road, Sims Road, which is the top of your screen, and I was driving straight into the sun with cows going across in front of you. It's quite, because most of these people actually just leave the stop signs out. They don't open them when it's the cows are going across, they stay there the whole time. So it would be in everyone's best interest for to be lights on that crossing.
James, we can require that as a condition.
Well, just same again, it could be a condition for the I think, and it's not an onerous condition. There's a number of stop crossings.
Well, I want to roll in. He's got till the end of November to complete the shifting of the crossing.
But also with another mat, an additional
So-
mat.
Through the chair, please.
Well, that's going to work itself. He's got 12 months to behave himself. He needs to work that out and get it sorted.
So Angela, have you got that third condition?
Through the chair, the condition that on the thing is for them to use a mat, whether he's got 2 mats or 3 mats, it's just that he has to use the mats when he's crossing the road. So, yeah, and so if he's using another mat and shifting to another part of the property, it doesn't really matter, provided he's actually using the mat when he's using the cow, getting the cow across the road.
So therein lies the question. If people, he's got 12 months to play by the rules. In the intervening 12 months, what's the best way, if someone goes through there and there is an issue, is Enteno the best way to report a stop crossing that's not being operated properly? Thank you.
Put in a service request with a special category for stop crossings, and it gets recorded, so it's every 3 years we go through those.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, do you need any more from me? You're right.
Perhaps, Mr. Chairman, since we're breaking up the process, right? So if we could possibly get that's the resolution you're moving. You're proposing a resolution.
Yep.
And obviously, we want to get a resolution on the table with a seconder, and then we could get
Maybe could we get that read out?
Read out the resolution.
That the Infrastructure Strategy and Operations Committee grants a stock underpass exemption for Otago Farms Limited farming operation on Gorge Road with the conditions, and the other 3 conditions that must be met by the end of November is to be reviewed together with the balance of all other stock underpass exemptions which expire on the 1st of December 2025.
And it's to be shifted.
Yep, that is one of the conditions.
Oh, you got
As far left as possible to the western boundary. Warning lights to be installed and these conditions to be met by the end of November.
So that's, I'm happy to move that.
Moved Councillor Herbert, seconded Councillor Crosty. Questions? Councillor McAtamney.
Probably more discussion.
Well, discussion.
Okay, whatever. Yeah, okay, so John, you're not happy, it's mud on the road, but also the fact that he's bought that block, he's run that new lane right down the side of the house.
Yep.
Yeah. So he's probably going to put that underpass. He's going to have to put a new lane to access all those other paddocks. He might just tack onto that lane he's already done. He might shift the crossing down the road, and the cheapest way to then be just to tack onto that lane he's already got. So that therefore the cow will still be, apart from the road crossing, will still be marching right down the side of the person's house.
We can't control what he does inside his paddock. We can only control the crossing.
But where's the biggest mess?
Well, there's an incentive for him to, sorry?
Is it the crossing or the lane beside their house?
Both. You've seen the road.
Yeah.
And the crossing and the lane is well, A, it's going to kill the hedge.
Yeah, I
know. But I mean, we don't have anything there. We can't. That's not part of what we can decide.
Yeah, probably.
I'll talk to him about that.
Wants to shift that lane, ideally.
Yeah, he'll get the message.
Any further discussion amongst you farmers?
Okay.
All right. If not, we will, all those in favour of the recommendations 1 and 2 as and you read them out before. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Appreciate that.
On to page
Pretty easy.
Page 11, item number 2, item for decision, the Taylor Park Dog Park proposal. Mike, welcome back.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Happy to take the report as read. I'll just note that in regards to recommendation 2B, which is around consultation, it's a reasonably limited or short-term consultation that is proposed here. We thought that was probably fit for purpose, but just noting that there are other methods that could be used or no consultation, of course, as well. So, but happy to take your guidance on that, but also happy to take questions.
Questions for Mike?
Mr. Chairman, just, sorry, Mike, when you say other options, we've done feedback before, haven't we? Where we've still advertised something and asked for feedback about such and such. Does that come under limited consultation, or is that an example of an alternative?
Yeah, well, it's a chance for feedback to be provided over a limited period. In this case, is what's proposed.
Councillor Phelps.
Through the chair, happy to support this, but my concern is with the asphalt. Because I know with the Clutha one, the dogs bear motor around each section. I read they're going to take some away. Is that right?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I've been to one of their meetings at least, and they had discussed that at length. And some in favour of removing all of it. Some want to, keep half or whatever half. So I think it's to be determined. That's my understanding. But
because my concern if it stayed there, because I mean, like I say, those dogs really motor and they could injure themselves. So it's I don't know what else I could say, but I just hope they do take most of it away.
Councillor Finch.
Thank you. So it's been looked at how much, it hasn't been decided yet how much to remove to have possibly a mud mould for them to climb up and down of. And the asphalt is already cracked. We have to have a working bee to clean all the bits of debris and grass and everything that are on there, and that'll give us a bit more of an idea. The fencer has already had a look and is happy with putting his posts in there. The reason to keep some of it maybe just along the fence line in the middle, we're not sure yet, and that's to stop the big dogs or the small dogs digging into the other side so that then we don't have an issue. So it's all to be decided yet. That hasn't been determined at this stage. Some of the trees have been accidentally felled by the weather conditions, others along the park fence that we're going to do a working bee on this weekend. So it's been a lot.
Councillor Kennedy, followed by Martin.
So our Clutha has a dog park. This will be the next dog park in our district. And I see it'll then become council's dog park to maintain.
That's the proposal. Yes.
Yeah. What are we looking at here? I mean, I know we do playgrounds, we do lots of other areas and that. I don't know what sort of, I suppose, because these are basically grass, aren't they? Do they have to be mowed?
Yes, and they're caught as well.
They're what?
We catch the clippings.
Mowed presently.
We do. Yep, we do. I know we do, because I've been moaning about it, Wayne.
Well, why don't you catch the clippings in our parks?
It's mowed presently.
That's what we don't.
That's all right, okay, and obviously keep an eye on that sort of thing, right? So it'll be an ongoing thing, so it'll be something that'll go into budgets and that too.
Yes, with council.
We're going to have to do maintenance things for these.
Presently mowed.
Presently mowed?
Yeah, there's no difference to the amount that's going to be mowed.
Other than the asphalt removal.
Oh, you mean that piece is already mowed at the moment?
Yes, all round that area. So the dogs are going to have the area under the trees and all round, so that's grass and trees.
You are. Councillor Kennedy, are you finished?
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Mike, we've already, that 2B, now we already had didn't these submissions come in at the LTP? So why would we want to go out for consultation?
Mr. Chair, you don't have to, as noted in the report. That's exactly right, because this activity is provided for in the management plan. I guess that's in there purely because of some recent issues that we've had at Taylor Park. Activities, so it might be better to
Just to be sure.
let the community know
yeah.
What's planned before we just charge off and allow this to happen. But you know, council's decision.
Yeah,
not do it.
And following on from that, then, so the dog park group, working group, will come back to council with estimated running costs, ongoing costs, the expectation of the council and the ratepayers to cover, or is it just the TOCO?
Yeah, so the next stage is what if this is approved, the next stage would be to develop an agreement with that area promotions, in terms around the creation of the facility. So who's going to pay for what around that, and then also the ongoing maintenance, etc. That's going to be provided.
Any further questions?
I'd be happy to move the motion 1 and 2A that we do, and 2B that we do approve a limited consultation. It's just covering our bases.
Thank you. Anyone prepared to second that? Councillor Wheeler.
No, I'd like to take them those separately. 2A and 2B separately.
2A and.
I'd be happy to move second recommendation that we receive the report and that we approve the development of the dog park. I don't believe we need consultation.
Right, Councillor Ludeman followed by Barron.
Well,
So that's.
I have a bit more discussion on this. What's the cost? Okay, to council to develop the dog park. It's all very well. We say we're going to do it. What's the cost?
It's on page.
There was a budget through the long-term plan, if you remember.
So the funding's all been put aside for it?
66,000.
Because it was all their parks and then it was.
Okay, here, yeah, okay. So there's no more than that. I mean, I just want to make sure that the cost to do this is actually budgeted for and covered. So that's why I'm asking that question.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So yeah, you're right. There is existing funding which has already been decided through the LTP to be allocated to this specific project, but I would suggest that the project would not be going ahead until the full amount has been raised, whoever that might be, that's including the community contribution, sponsorship, or whatever it might be. So therefore, the council's contribution is locked in, and I think all of that will be required to get it over the line, but there's still a way to go yet.
Okay, so therefore we'd really be approving it subject to funding being obtained.
So it's the same for any other community project.
It's the same as it was for Cleveland.
Councillor Barron, and then we'll go back.
Through you, Councillor Graham. I would agree with Councillor Wheeler's moving that motion because this was consulted on in 2018. It's in the Our Place Milton consultation document to develop a dog park at Taylor Park in this area. It's already been done.
Right, so let's go back to a mover and a seconder for 1 and 2A. And then we'll discuss 2B.
Maybe, I'm presuming as councillor Finch hasn't, motion hasn't been seconded, it's
No, it
lapsed.
Sorry?
As councillor Finch's
Hasn't
motion
been
hasn't been
seconded.
seconded,
That's
it's
right.
lapsed.
And then you proposed.
I will move, for a start, I'll move recommendation 1 that we receive the report.
Yes, second.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Against, right, and now?
Well, I'll move recommendation 2 that the committee approves the development of a dog park at Taylor Park.
Seconder for that, councillor Finch. Oh, sorry. Councillor Barron, you've got your name in the book. Right, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against, right. Now we go to.
And I'm not moving anything further. I don't believe we need consultation. As Councillor Barron's said, we did this, we consulted in 2008 and we consulted again last year on the subject. And we have set aside, there's a nice diagram with a dog park drawn in those earlier reserve management plans. So I don't believe there's need to consult, and I am prepared to wear any flack that any member of the community might want to bring to me about this. So,
right, so Councillor Finch.
So this came about because of the issues that were in Taylor Park existing already. We just wanted to cross the i's and dot the t's to make sure there was no comeback. So I'll happily send them on your way.
Cross the i's, dot the t's.
Whatever.
No confusion.
No dotties here.
So are we, is anybody prepared to move that we either
move on?
We don't have to.
Just rural non-working.
Does anybody have a count? Does anybody want to say that we do go to consultation? If
We
not,
already voted. I did, but it didn't get seconded.
no, we voted on A. 2A, we.
I moved it, didn't get seconded.
Page 17, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
It's the tail wagging the dog.
No, we assist the chair. We're a team.
Have you paid your licence fee then?
Won't get into that one. Right, the operations update transportation. James, welcome back.
And James, you're another quietly spoken person. So can you please speak to the mic?
Thank you. I assume that I'll take this report as being read. However, as you're aware, there's been some changes since the report was written a week ago, and I'd like to update you a wee bit verbally on what's happening out there. At the moment, we've got 2 of our contract supervisors and 2 of our sales managers out assessing the damage from the flooding at the weekend. Most of the damage is coastal, from Torrey-Mouth right through to the boundary of the Chaswins. The majority of the damage is through slips from sodden soils, clays. The slips come down off the roads or away from them. There is some big scares across roads from culverts and creeks that couldn't handle it. There's not that many. Summer Hill's got a culvert completely removed. Begg's Track is a perennial problem. Cora Creek's another perennial problem when you have big floods. And there's some scaring on Grey Road as well, but the majority of it is actually slips and that sort of thing. As of 5 o'clock yesterday, we've estimated that our inspectors had covered about 80% of the network that we suspect is damaged. There's over 500 individual sites have been added into our system as identified as damaged sites. The estimates are pretty much ballpark. They can figure out in your head when they're driving past sort of estimates, but last night it was around about $1 million worth of damage. Their priorities had been to get access to all the properties, which we have done now, except for I found out that there's one property in Fisher Road that still hasn't got access. found out about an hour ago. Our priorities were to get people access and make roads safe, which we've pretty much got now, by putting signs out on things that are damaged. Now we're concentrating on getting roads open to 2 lanes, starting with the higher volume roads like the Papua Highway and Churchlands Highway. We'll get on to Tokyo Mouth Road and Torrey Mouth later, probably early next week or later next week. And then we'll be moving on to clearing slips that are blocking water tables and the scared water tables. Is there any questions?
No, but well done. Well, big effort. Councillor Martin.
Through you, Mr. Chair. James, just wondering when I was looking at some of the damage myself, do we actually get financial assistance from the government with events like this, or do we just have to wear it on the chin?
My knowledge of the assistance is a wee bit vague at the moment because it's changed since all the flooding in the far north. NZTA changed their funding, but I believe it's still the same, as that we have to have 10%, that the damage to the event has to be more than 10% of our roading maintenance budget before they'll give us any financial assistance. And then it used to be at an increased fare rate, but now it'll be the same fare rate as we had before. So basically it has to come out of our budget up until 10% of our maintenance budget, and then beyond that we can get extra assistance from NZTA, but it'll have to be matched with funding as well at our usual fare rate.
Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hey, my question's a bit easier than the last one, James. Police dealt with a member of the public who damaged 5 signs in the cabins. Do we know how they caught them or identified them? Because this happens all over the place, and I'd love to catch the people that do it around now.
I don't know how he managed to catch them. He's quite a passionate policeman having a whack at the moment.
Nice. If he's got any tips that he could give our man around.
Forward to. Councillor Phelps, followed by across.
Just through the chair, James, just regarding the weekend, like well done to the team. One sort of comment that came back was getting signage out. I know it's hard to be everywhere at once, but is there a shortage on signs or people or?
Yes, shortage.
I mean, don't take that as a criticism. I think you did a great job. I'm just, just one of the.
It gets to the point that we could have all the signs, but we wouldn't have the staff to put them out, or we wouldn't have the ability to get to where the signs are needed because the roads are blocked. So we do our best with what we have, but it gets to a point where in an event like that, it's, dare I say it, common sense that everybody looks out for themselves.
We did actually get signs from other contractors as well, so it wasn't just our contractors that were working on South Roads, we went to other contractors and collected signs. Can I also just ask another question, because I was down at the Big Centre on the Friday night and everyone was told to stay at home, south of the road. Can these people actually get fined, or is there anything? I know it's not a council thing, but it's just unbelievable how people would go down and try and put themselves in danger or driving through steep water. I know it's probably not a question you can't answer, but I mean, can you?
Insurance doesn't pay.
So when we're in a state of civil emergency, the controller sets the rules. When roads are closed, and then it's a police issue to actually follow up on that. Unfortunately, everybody's busy doing what they're doing.
Councillor McCrosty.
I'd just like to say massive thanks to the whole team, James. Between out on the roads, I shot down to the service centre and had to relocate some signs for the police because people don't realise State Highway 1 isn't under the council. But to your team and everybody that worked on the EOC, well done.
Councillor Finch.
Thank you. Mine was quite close to Wayne's actually. Do we know, are there going to be people prosecuted that went through all the road closed signs that they did?
I would doubt
Because other years we've managed to be able to do that.
it. Yeah, I don't know of any
Police
prosecutions
has.
there may be, but I'm not aware.
Just because there was so many went through so many road closed signs.
Right,
As
any
usual.
further questions? Do you have your hand up? No. If not, someone prepared to move the recommendation on page 17? Councillor Hill, followed by Councillor Phelps. Discussion. Councillor Barron.
The Mount Cooey. Oh, sorry, am I on the wrong one?
Might be on the wrong
one.
No further questions? All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. On to item number 4, operations update, green space, waste and compliance. Jason, welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. If you're happy, I'd like to accept the report that's been read. Quite.
Councillor Barron.
I'm on the right one. Thank you. Mount Cooey is full, Jock, and you're going to extend it. How far away is the resource consent for the new one with the liner in it and all the rest of it that you've got it?
Through the chair, if I could defer to Jules
Or
or Donna.
So at the moment, we're currently in discussions with Otago Regional Council. They've come up with some additional Section 92 requirements that we're actually now seeking a bit of legal advice.
You're seeking what? Sorry, I can't hear.
Legal advice, just to determine whether or not those requirements are required.
You're seeking what?
We're seeking some legal advice in regards to an additional Section 92 that Otago Regional Council have just implied they may consider actioning or requiring rather.
So it's been going on for over a year now, so is it?
Correct. Almost 2 years, I believe.
Are they concerned about the time and the fact that the existing ones passed its use by date?
I can't comment on that. They're very much aware that this is a risk for us and an issue, and our team are dealing closely with them along with the professional service provider that's assisting us on this situation. It's associated with landscaping requirements, the latest concerns they have.
Just to be clear though, through Mr. Chair, when did we submit the application?
I'd have to check, but it's a long.
It was almost 2 years ago, is my understanding, and then the latest responses to the Section 92 requirements following on the handover from when team members left CDC, and it's been handed into my team now. I think that was done about 6 weeks ago from memory.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So, Jason, the existing ones outside of its conditions?
No, the current landfill as it is about to meet our closure plan. The closure plan was drafted by us. So we said that the dimensions of the landfill as it stands would meet these dimensions. There isn't, those conditions weren't applied to us at the consent. We applied those conditions ourselves. Yet we have to have a closure plan to get the new one. That makes sense? So we're going to close this landfill and open this one. And when we said that we were going to close it, we said it would look like this. So the exercise that we're doing at this moment in time is to extend that closure plan to what we can do on an engineering landfill basis. So we can go bigger and we can go wider. We would just may have to amend our consent to say we're going to change our closure plan slightly. It's a self-imposed limit. There are engineering limits to the site. We haven't reached those. We've reached the limit of our closure plan.
Would you know if the waste care personnel that run the site are aware that it's still okay to use it? Because when
Yes.
I go there, they tell me that they're outside of their consent and blah, 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 and they shouldn't be dumping here and bloody council this and council that. They go on and on.
If you bring that to my attention, I can manage that, but I can assure you that we have worked and have asked for an updated closure model from Waste Corridors, our contractors, and they are well aware and have actually sought engineering advice on the model, which is to increase the height. Yes, so they are well aware. We are currently within the closure plan. We have not exceeded the closure plan.
Okay, well, I can say that one on there rather than have to go, oh, is that right? Thank you.
Councillor Finch, followed by McAtemi.
I'd just like to say how great the Balclutha Bridge fence looks. It's made a huge difference coming on and off that bridge there. And is it going to be painted or stay just the timber?
Would you like it painted?
No, because then it'll stand out white against the bridge that looks grubby.
So am I right, like that the fence on the outside of the footpath is Wahakatai? Right, where were we? Councillor McAtemi.
Yeah, thanks. Jason, I'm particularly interested in that landfill feasibility report. We obviously just started it. Come up at the last risk and insurance meeting, I was quite surprised by the number that would, an estimated number that it would take to carve all our waste out of the district. It was a lot lower than I thought. So that project, you're doing that, you'll be including the cost of building transfer stations everywhere to on shift that, everything in.
Yeah, the current model's finished. Jules has asked for peer review. We've found someone that can peer review that just to make sure that what we're saying is correct. It includes building a transfer station at Mercury. That is in the long-term plan. That was always in the long-term plan. It's just that we're going to operate it a different way if we were to do that.
So you're not going to give anything away today, but does it appear that it could be a viable option? Because
subject to being peer reviewed, that it's more cost effective to landfill the waste.
Than to shift it?
Yes, currently, subject to peer review.
Yeah, and that's based on the Mount Kiwi budget coming in on how much variation would there have to be to the cost of the new landfill to alter that?
It's probably something that needs to be, more carefully thought through without just sort of verbally answering you on that one, councillor.
We're going to get a very good report.
It's a pretty big subject. So at the moment, I think Jason's nicely answered some of your things just off the top of his head, but we need to bring it through properly.
Yeah, because I'm just very aware, I'd love to talk about our long-term debt projections. Mount Kiwi is going to be a big chunk of that, so it's going to be very interesting just where that report lands.
It's just to confirm though, taking what Steve said, regardless of what you do, it will still be a waste transfer station built at Mount Kiwi.
Yeah.
So it's how we operate that waste transfer station is the end decision.
Yeah, because the other factor, there's also another comment about in your report about how the waste had actually dropped compared to budget. So if that's a long-term trend, which would be a good trend, then that also would swing in favour of possibly outsourcing it. We don't want to meet the budget by having more waste go into the landfill. It's not ideal in the long run.
That would be a first step to make this.
Yeah.
Councillor Ludeman. Oh, sorry.
Yes. I just want to follow up on a comment that Councillor Barron made about what had been said at Mount Kiwi to you from staff. And just to add that I've actually also had those comments come back to me And therefore we're getting some mixed messaging within the community about what's happening at Mount Kui. And it is coming from people who have been getting rid of rubbish. So I am concerned. I mean, people are coming to me, they've been in dump rubbish and they've been told this is happening and that's happening at Mount Kui. We'll be a bit careful. The messaging coming from there, it's got to be correct messaging. Just a comment.
Donna, do you have your hand up? Sorry.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Chair. So just to answer a couple of the questions that have been raised in regards to the capital aspect. About 3 weeks ago, we actually had early contractor engagement where myself and our asset management team, our proposed project manager, met with Leach & Co on site at Mount Kui, and we've been working through the whole scoping and planning propositions for the capital proposed landfill cell works. I'm waiting on their written report to come back to us, but I think it's actually arrived as of this afternoon while I've been in council. But at the moment, we feel that budgeting projections are on track from the capital aspect with the current proposals. I am getting more information, though, as I've mentioned, from the early contractor involvement and discussions. The transfer stations outside of Mount Kui, I've requested our asset manager, Cosmos, to start doing some analytics and cost-benefit analysis on those as well, which will be putting reports up to council also.
Councillor Phelps.
Just through the chair, just regarding Kui still, the recycling. We're all encouraged to do recycling, and I see the costs are going up. Can you sort of elaborate why? What's the cost? I mean, why are the costs going up when we're being encouraged to recycle? I just find that frustrating.
So the main cost driver for recycling for Clutha in particular is that Dunedin signed a contract with Endeavour NZ to build a new facility at the Green Island. That facility won't come online until 2026, I believe, early 2026. So the facility that was sorting the waste, which is OI at the Endeavour Waste Depot there just outside of Green Island, that didn't have the throughput to process our recycling. So that essentially all the tonnage left that was going through that facility came from Clutha. So we went out to the site and see if we could run it more effectively for them, because I used to run the MIR for Auckland. We could get it a little bit cheaper, but nowhere near that. So what we've had to do is seek alternative markets. So the next closest is our neighbour in Recycle South and Invercargill. So we're now having the cost is now to ship it to Invercargill, because that was the only two markets that we've got. We did try to get a quote from RONZ, that they're just coming back to us at this moment in time. Yeah, that's where the primary drivers for Clutha. The national market is that obviously you've got lots of people recycling. As you recycle more, the product becomes less because it's more available for us to standard economics. Yeah.
So the government not helping in any respect in that, putting plants somewhere? Or?
Well, the government have got its waste minimisation strategy. Where they give us some money back for the landfill tax, so we get a percentage of that we can use for that. We just had our first meeting with our regional recycling coordinator. The markets wise, tyres, we've got the tyre wise scheme, which is a real success for us at this moment. That's saving us money. We used to pay to dispose of those tyres when we found them. Now we get a small income. I mean, we get $1 per tyre. And we turned over about 300 tyres, but that would have been a cost to the Clutha now, on our weighbridge. Now it's the government's now sorting that, and the pay at source. There is a scheme, container scheme, so plastics and glass that they're looking at. That product stewardship program again, where if you buy something in a glass bottle or you buy something in plastic, then you pay at the source for the recycling. So that might get introduced shortly, but in terms of whether the government are saying to small councils like Clutha, hey, here's some extra money to recycle, No, it's essentially it's a market-driven economy.
Can I just ask one last question? What do they do with every cycle stuff?
Currently, it gets bulked up and it's got to Timaru and it's sorted at Timaru.
Thank you.
Right, further questions? If not, someone prepared to move the recommendation on page 19.
Happy to move.
Councillor Finch, seconded. Councillor Herbert, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. On to page 30. Item number 5, the operations update, water. Welcome, Linda.
I'm happy to present the report and take questions. I do also have an update about water and waste recovery following the flood event. First, in case there's questions about that.
Councillor Finch.
Phoenix Dam, do we know yet who the owner of that is?
No, not currently.
Still don't, okay.
Yeah. Still further research.
Councillor Herbert.
Thank you. Thanks for your report, Linda. So a couple of questions regarding the reticulation contract, probably one comment. It seems to be taking forever, and I'm not blaming you. I'm just like, I suppose the longer it goes on, the more uneasy I get that there's concerns from some of those parties. So that's a comment. Can you just help me understand if hypothetically that contract's signed, that's a cost plus a percentage contract?
Correct. Currently, with a plan to move towards measure and value, so some fixed pricing.
So okay, right. So if we've got a main contractor and we've got two contract partners.
They are now subcontractors to the main.
So they're subcontractors. So hypothetically, the subcontractor does some work, and he puts his percentage markup on it.
Yes.
It goes to the main contractor. Do they then put a second markup on it before it comes to us?
No, we get the breakdown by contractor, and with each of them applying their margin. They do have some different rates, so they've negotiated different rates with the lead contractor, but we have full visibility of that. So we know exactly what work is being done by each contractor, because that's part of us protecting the local contractors to make sure they're not being squeezed out of work. But we're not paying margin on margin.
Thank you.
Linda, but there is a management fee for the main contractor as well, isn't there?
Yes, but they've all got management fees and overheads in that regard. That's also open book. We have full visibility of that.
Thank you.
As well.
Right, further. Councillor Barron.
Thank you. At Crown Street, you're going to put in some more water columns.
Correct.
Where are they actually going? Are they going in where you're driving now to where the existing water columns are, or a different site?
Yes, we've moved the driveway because it was kind of through where we wanted to place the water columns, and also is a bit unsafe because that's where people were moving around. So the driveway has been moved to the northern boundary, and the water columns will create almost like a little village. So where what we call it the smoko room, so where that one is, it'll
I understand.
Parallel with the driveway.
My question is, with the existing water columns there and the fact that there's an old milk treatment station that's been there for 100 years, who put on this necessity to get a geotech design to ensure the ground conditions are adequate for some water columns in that site?
That's required to make the consent requirement.
Did Malcolm do that?
We don't
like to name
personalise
people.
things, councillor. It's the element of the building activity.
George.
Well, look down here.
Consent.
This seems just
It is-
ridiculous.
Yeah, it is a water column. It's a temporary building, so it will be basically on, concrete blocks. If you like. But it is one of the requirements that's been outlined to us.
This is ridiculous.
Just to clarify, it's just some ground scale of penetrometer readings,
Yes.
ground bearing, so it's not a massive geotech investigation.
I don't expect there's going to be any issues, given that was formerly a driveway that had vehicles running across it.
Yeah. I can't believe that they need to do it. But anyway, thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Linda, thank you for your report. The Phoenix Dam event did we actually have, I suppose the numbers haven't come in yet, but what sort of expense did it cost the council?
So we have presented those numbers previously.
Are they all in to date now?
No, there's been some other
Yeah.
bits involved, but not a whole lot in comparison. So I think the last number was 532K. I think that's right.
We are taking some legal advice on whether or not we can recover any of that, councillor, but we don't want to say anything more about that at this point.
But I guess the bypass has been operating the whole time, and we are currently getting enough supply of the bypass, but the valve, we've turned off the Bungtown Creek because we didn't need that flow right now. We will in summer, we know that.
Councillor Fells.
Through the chair, Linda, just regarding, you mentioned that you got recent resignations, so the restructure, so you feel comfortable you've got enough people on the ground, as it were?
Yes,
with the,
I believe so.
so have we got less people now?
We've got some gaps in the management team, but we are looking at whether there's some ways we can do some things differently to get better bang for our buck, more than try and squeeze numbers of people.
Councillor McCrosty, followed by Martin.
Linda, the Milton Waihola line, it's all up and running?
So the line has been commissioned, but we're still working through testing, so we don't have the test results through that will enable us to lift the boil water notice. We've got some few little elements to check, so some sample points have had to be moved because we had reduced the number on the North Bruce line, and we need to now have some in the Waihola township as well. So that's the last piece of the puzzle, so we can then get the testing done.
And then when Waihola goes under that, North Bruce won't be tested as much, so we'll be clean and sweet.
Will be tested.
Right.
Councillor Martin.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Linda, so the Te Amata Arawai reviews and audits, I see they're coming to meet with us, with the council early October. And I see in here the topics they want to focus on include milestones, current or emerging risks. Are you able to tell us about what are the emerging risks? Are we talking of financial risks as well that are associated with the project, or?
Yeah, their interest is more around the project itself and delivery, also kind of the origins of it, because we have asked for an extension for getting the Tuapeka West Protozol barrier protection in. So that visit was part of them giving consideration to our request for an extension, given we won't be delivering the new Balmoral Tuapeka scheme by December, which was to meet one of their requirements.
So they're not actually concerned at all about the financial risks that are associated with it. All
There was some interest about that, and we're providing them with all of the data that they've asked for in that regard too.
Thank you.
Right, if there's no further questions, someone prepared to move the recommendation on page 30? Councillor Hurwitz, seconded. Councillor McAtamney, all those in favour? Aye. Carried.
Just in terms of the weather event, do you want an update?
Sorry, yes.
So, no, it's not
Sorry
in the
about that,
report,
yeah.
but I just thought I'd give you an update on that.
By all means.
Given we had some significant impact. So perhaps if I cover off wastewater. So our most of our plants were overwhelmed by the water flow, but we are back on track again. So Waihola was the biggest concern. A pump failed that was replaced on Tuesday, and I've reported, we're reporting back today to the Otago Regional Council that the plant will now only discharge at the correct tidal times as per our consent conditions. So we have had that valve open and have just been discharging to the river since the rain event started. So that has now been resolved, which is, I'm sure, pleasing news to many people. Stirling also today is now operating as normal. We've only got 2 plants that are still overflowing. One of those is Kaitangata and the other one is Owaka, which had quite an unusual flooding event, and then it became part of the river. So we've had to pull the UV lights out of those. They're actually being assessed currently, and we couldn't get to those until the floodwater have receded somewhat. We do have some other damage around the plants with access and tracks and things, but those will be remediated over time. But for wastewater, obviously we wanted to get back within consent conditions and protect the environment. Clutha, we're still operating outside our consent levels just to keep the level of that down as water makes its way through the system. Clinton, Heriot, Lawrence and Carker Point, all fine, operating well, and the biofilter beads did their thing, I guess, as much as they could. We've been able to take our monthly samples from those sites that they were done yesterday. All other sampling's on hold until the river levels recede, given we have people going down to the water's edge. We don't want to have anybody falling in anywhere. Our water plants, our most significantly affected has been Stirling. We've had extensive damage there to the filter, and the initial assessment is that repairs would be uneconomic. So we're looking to source a containerised plant as a temporary measure so we can lift the boil water notice that we've had to put on. So the plant is producer water, just not compliant. We've put a tanker in Stirling, and the team is making arrangements to put in a tank like we did at Lawrence when we had the boil water notice there, because it's a whole lot cheaper than having a tanker sitting there, especially if it's a problem over an extended period. Tapanui, we also have put a boil water notice on that's related to that turbidity again. We did have some repairs that had to be undertaken on Saturday because the intake, the river changed the whole course of things, and the intake was out of the water, I should say. And so the local contractor got in there with a digger and sorted that out. So we are making water, but it's not great quality. And I've been told that Philtech have been, this afternoon, breaking news for you, John, Philtech have been out on site this week to price up a UV unit, which is what we're going to go with.
For Tapanui, from Lovely.
Tapanui.
Get two of them.
May get a discount, huh? We've got a number of sites that are on conserve or disruption to supply. Probably the most significant is Purua, that's on the Richardson South, and feeds Carker Point also. So we put a tanker in Carker Point for residents to get water. It's not a boil water notice, but it's just to give them some supply. The flood water washed away our screen in the river, so the outer intake screen. Debris has filled the well. There is another internal screen which is also damaged. We've got that attached by a strop at the moment, but the pump failed because of the debris. We had a critical spare that got lifted in to get, and on Tuesday we got things up and running, Tuesday evening, but our temporary kind of bodged up repair failed last night. So the pump has been lifted today, so we can suck the stones and gravel out of the well before putting the pump back in. I've just checked before coming up here. It's still not running, unfortunately, but we have arranged for the screen that is there to be lifted each day to try to clean it, to try and protect the pump, the new pump. North Bruce, we've had to put a conserve water on today. A landslip has taken out a pipe there, so we've got repairs underway. That's not treatment plant related. Glen Kennock, we had some valve repairs that they're now complete. The reservoir is recovering. It was on 49% about an hour ago. Remembering they have a very small, that doesn't sound like a lot of water. That's a couple of hours supply for them. Tuapeka East, we had a broken main, which was repaired, and now we've had another leak, so we've left that conserve on. And Waipahi, we had a blocked intake there, and we've cleared that, and the conserve was lifted today. So there's been a lot of work going on. The team have been out and checked all of our sites. It's a continually moving landscape, and so keeping across the information is probably the biggest challenge for me, but we're certainly aware of what needs to be done. Still some longer term things. We're just getting on trying to make water where we can't make it safe. We're protecting the community, but we'll be working and doing whatever we can to lift those as well.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kennedy.
Through Chairman. Just a question there on that, Owaka, wastewater treatment plant that flooded because of, was it the river source?
The river, yeah.
Okay, so going forward, it's not a one-off event, okay? So going forward, we will be looking at putting either something in place so that the river can't meet into there, or?
Potentially, my understanding is that the track that's there even was an old railway line, so I'm not sure. But we'll have to think about the next time.
You'd have to build up the two ponds, and I mean, I don't know what that's going to involve in cost, because they're effectively a bund now. The slopes of the ponds are a bund, but the whole, the paddocks, the river, all gone. It was just one big lake. So you would have to materially change the nature of it in terms of building up a bund sufficient to hold that water if you're going to do that. It's the first time it's happened, I think.
So that's happening before in Owaka, but Councillor Cathal would may have heard about it in the past. It's the same height as the railway line, so it was
really
exceptional.
Councillor Herbert.
Quick question, and thanks for the update, Linda. You talk about making water, and I know Tapanui is notoriously slow at sort of filling the tank. Are we confident that the night flows are showing that there's no major leaks, or that everything is in order to make sure the tank fills as quick as possible prior to summer, which is hopefully around the corner?
I will have to look at that. I haven't looked at the flows. Jules on the Zypack now, he'll be checking it out.
Yeah, I understand some of the night flows are still in that sort of 3 or 4 litres a second, which would indicate that something's. Look, that's just be nice to get it sorted before summer when it does arrive.
If there's no more questions, someone prepared to move the recommendation on page 35. Are we? Oh, we did. Oh, now we're on page 35. Sorry, it's getting late in the day.
Daniel's going to come up here and talk to you about compliance.
Yeah, item number 6.
Yeah, but Mr. Chairman, I know that there was congratulations from the council about the EOC and the roading related side of things, and I just important to note, you just heard it now, didn't you? I mean, the Three Waters team worked equally hard over the period as well, and that's really, I know the councillors haven't excluded you from that. Really appreciate the work that's been done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Daniel. Item number 6, the compliance update report.
I'm here to present the compliance update report and take any questions that you may have about it. Thank you.
Questions for Daniel?
Big report.
Councillor Finch.
On page 39, 1.4, Mile Flat and North Bruce compliance issues. An update will be provided at the meeting. You're waiting on legal feedback regarding the contracts for upgrading the treatment plants, as they contained a guarantee to meet the previous drinking water standards.
Apologies, we haven't received that yet, so as soon as we get that, we'll be able to give you an update. Sorry, it's been delayed.
Okay, that's fine.
Any questions? Councillor Herbert, I see your fingers sort of shaking.
So, Daniel, this is an easy one for you. Page 43, when I look at Mile Flat, and I look on the left hand, or the second from left column, and it talks about the minutes per day of run time.
Yes.
Given there's 1,440 minutes in a day, there's a lot of times there where it gets very, very, very close to that in the middle of the winter. So would it be normal for a treatment plant to be operating almost 24 hours a day at that time of year?
Different treatment plants run differently, I suppose.
Very physical answer.
Elusive answer, isn't it? Yeah. Look at the demand of what's been needed by the consumers. So
That's why I'm asking the question, because I'm thinking, well, this is, we're talking July, August here.
Middle of winter.
In the middle of winter, and the times it's running at 1,410 minutes a day, which is that's 23 and a half hours.
So where's the water going?
We have to check that. I know with some plants we slow them down so they match the actual flow, because you get better performance through the plant and upflow through the clarifier. So we'd have to check the details with the treatment team just to Because that may be what they've done, or maybe they're just reporting the whole period even when they're not actually producing water.
Yeah.
Plant, it just says plant runtime. Yeah, anyway, that's my question, but I'll let you have the rest of the day off.
Any further questions? If not, recommendation on page 35. Where are we? Got to get back there.
Happy to move, Bruce.
Councillor Kennedy, seconded Councillor McCrosty. All those in favour?
Aye.
On to page 61. Still there. Item number 7, infrastructure strategy and delivery update. Welcome, Donna. All yours.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. So just before we go on to the report, I thought I'd just itemise a few additional things following everyone else's positioning with the flood events that have occurred. So 6 of our infrastructure strategy and delivery team, including myself, also assisted and worked throughout the weekend with civil defence. And what we also did is at the minute, Friday morning, we lodged with NZTA that we were in a flood event. And then again, as soon as we had a state of emergency, I directed the team to contact NZTA to lodge that as a state of emergency, because that triggers the timeline for where we can actually start recognising the issues associated with potential funding claims for the emergency works event. So it was quite critical to get that. So normally they allow a 6-week time frame from the date that you trigger the event to get, so how James acknowledged how the rating operations team were out assessing the sites now. We normally have up to 6 weeks time period to get all the photographic evidence, the information into our asset management system to construct the report for funding requirements. So that was occurred with that. An area with the flood events that I'm pretty proud to advise actually is that all the new assets that have been implemented all withstood and held well. So that was a great relief. In fact, when I heard about Owaka, I was quite concerned because we got a new pump station, but that was working beautifully. So that was great to hear. So all the hard work and effort that we're all doing does pay off, particularly when we have these events. And another area that I just wanted to raise was that from a historical project, or a project that we've recently completed on Riverside Road, we had a bit of a concern with some of the designs that were put in place, and we have successfully received 50% refund from the professional service provider.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
Well
So yeah,
done.
that's been about a 2-month negotiation on that. So I suppose that's just letting you know that when we do recognise that there's issues, I'm certainly not frightened to have those hard discussions with the contractors and professional service providers. So on that note, reports tabled. If you have any questions, please.
Questions? Councillor McAtamney, followed by, did you have your finger up again? Councillor Herbert. Councillor Barron.
And I was just going to make a comment, Donna, that I'm quite impressed with all those boxes for the different projects. That's something we've been looking for more detail on for a long time, and very easy to understand. Yeah, I like that.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks, Donna. My first question, because I have 2 of them, is on page 64. Something we've been talking about today, sort of around forestry. We talked about forestry catchment protection, and on the 3rd line it says talks about our protections are limited to those stated in the bylaw and district plan, which are not actively enforced. Is there a reason they're not actively enforced? It seems pointless having a bylaw or district plan if we're not going to enforce it.
Through you, Chair, I can't actually respond to that because that would be in a different area within council.
So I think the answer would be not proactively enforced. We tend to have a compliance strategy that's reactive rather than proactive. It's relatively standard around things. So that's the general compliance strategy. So if there's a specific something to be investigated, we'll go and investigate it.
Thank you. All right. My next question we talked about this morning. page 77, we talk about Taylor Park cabins, and it talks here about 3 cabins being sold, and this morning we're talking about 4 cabins being sold. So I'm a wee bit confused there. So the 198,000 is for the sale of 3 cabins, is that right?
Through you, Chair, so we've actually advised that 4 cabins have been sold, but we received the revenue from the sales of 3. So yes, we've added in that extra line in the financial table. I just thought it was giving you some visibility of the revenue that comes in as it comes through, so you can see that it's offsetting the expenditure. Yeah.
So we've still got one more to come in at that price?
There's still another one to come in where the
That's
actual
66.
revenue has hit council.
Yep, okay. No, that's great.
So
Thank
it's
you.
sold, but the revenue hasn't hit our
Thank you.
books yet.
Councillor Barron.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Done a bit of history. Back in the early days, I used to swim in all our friends who'd go down to the Clutha River and swim in the Clutha River, especially opposite the Nash Park there where Davies had a concrete drag, gravel drag, and there was ponds and swimming. In today's market, I see we're attempting to build a platform for people to jump in the river. Have you assessed the risks to the council if someone in jeans and gumboots jumps in there and drowns off a platform that the Clutha District Council built for that purpose?
So through you, Chair, we've provided an internal memo acknowledging risks associated with this potential proposal. We didn't get into that level, no.
So is there...
That would be any facility that would be,
No, not any facility. If it's built primarily for that purpose, do you intend to assess the risk associated with that if something untoward happens?
So through you, Mr. Chairman, I can answer that. We have considered the risks of what we're looking at doing as well, and that's why the depth and those sorts of things will be checked for where the platform is going to be going, and there's going to be signage advising people of when not to use the platform if it's below a certain level, and advising them of the risks. There's similar things that we're looking at doing in other parts of New Zealand, that if someone in gumboots and wearing lead weights jumps off the Wellington waterfront where there's 2 diving platforms, that would be a significant risk there too. So we are certainly looking to improve the situation that we have now, and look at those risks with signage and all sorts of things like that for exactly that reason. So we definitely are considering the safety aspects as well.
Yeah, I mean, you jump off the bridge, the bridge and all the rest of it, don't get me wrong. But it was just that it's being built for that purpose. Thank you.
Sorry, if I could. I do understand that this proposal has, with some of the options, has gone through the Youth Council, and their feedback from the Youth Council was they support it. So that's why we're looking to try and mitigate those risks and make sure people actually are aware of that when they are using that facility. So it'll be do not use if the river's at a certain level, for example.
Any further questions? If not, someone prepared to move the recommendation on page 61. Councillor Herbert again, seconded Councillor Ludeman. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favour? Against? Carried, and that brings this meeting to its end. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant day.
Yes,